Chapter 739. The second beast that appeared in front of Wang Feng was a ferocious crocodile that looked similar to Odontosuchus. Odontosuchus was a windwing snowstorm crocodile. He had wings and was covered in icicle-like armor. This ferocious crocodile also had a pair of wings and was covered in aquamarine armor that looked like gemstones. Its eyes were ferocious. The third one was a whale shark that was completely blue in color. It was also the beast with the strongest aura. Wang Feng estimated that it had at least 90,000 years of cultivation. The whale shark was a type of shark. However, it was as huge as a whale and was almost 80 meters long. At this moment, Wang Feng finally encountered 3 aquatic soul beasts when he was 5,000 meters deep into the sea. These 3 aquatic soul beasts were all bound by a sea god's lock. Unlike Wang Feng's lock, which could be unlocked, the sea god's lock would pierce into their bodies directly. It was impossible to unlock them, because they had been in the bodies of these 3 aquatic soul beasts for a long time. The sea god's lock might have grown together with their flesh. Wang Feng did not expect to encounter these 3 aquatic soul beasts so soon. In the sea, these 3 aquatic soul beasts are not ordinary. Even ordinary 80,000-year aquatic soul beasts can't be defeated by those 100,000-year aquatic soul beasts on land. Wang Feng did not doubt this. Just like how the soul Douluo on the sea god's island could defeat a titled Douluo on the sea god's island, they had to face the immense pressure of the sea. But now, these 3 aquatic soul beasts were one of Wang Feng's tests. He had to tame these 3 aquatic soul beasts and break the 3 chains at the same time. If it were other soul masters who had just reached 5,500 meters, they would be exhausted. They would not even be able to escape, let alone tame these 3 aquatic soul beasts. Just like what the 2 purple-robed soul masters said, it was impossible. But for me, it's not impossible. Wang Feng looked at the 3 aquatic soul beasts with strong auras. At this moment, the 3 aquatic soul beasts charged towards Wang Feng. They had already smelled the tempting aura on Wang Feng's body. But why did they only appear now? It was very simple, because they knew that Wang Feng, who had just reached this position, was in his weakest state. These 3 sea spirit beasts had lived for many years and were extremely intelligent. For a soul master to be able to pull 3 sea gods' locks and descend to such a terrifying depth, how strong was he? He must be terrifyingly strong. Wang Feng's aura had reached its peak when he released the power of the blood mark and the dark angel martial soul from over 4,000 meters away. At that time, the 3 sea spirit beasts had already planned for this moment. This human was undergoing a test. As long as he reached the limit of the test and was at his weakest, then he would attack. At the same time, the deeper they sank, the more advantageous it would be for them. The Blood Jiao Sea Soul Beast was the first to charge towards Wang Feng. The Blood Jiao Sea Soul Beast was extremely fast in the deep sea. In just a few blinks of an eye, it was already close to Wang Feng. Wang Feng was still inside the bubble formed by the blue flag. If it was removed, Wang Feng would have to face the pressure of the sea. Therefore, he naturally wouldn't do that. At the moment when the Blood Jiao Sea Soul Beast attacked, Wang Feng spun the blue flag in his hand and channeled his remaining soul power and spiritual power to the extreme. It was as if a hole had been opened under the sea. The bubble suddenly expanded and enveloped the Blood Jiao Sea Soul Beast. Countless amounts of seawater disappeared around the Blood Jiao Sea Soul Beast, causing the Blood Jiao Sea Soul Beast's body to be extremely strange. It was as if it had suddenly disappeared from the ground into a vacuum. The Blood Jiao Sea Soul Beast's body was slow for a few seconds. Wang Feng took this opportunity to dodge the Blood Jiao Sea Soul Beast's attack. The Blood Jiao Sea Soul Beast's body was covered with densely packed thorns. Its attack power was extremely strong. Once he was entangled by the thorns, he would not be in a good state given his current state. Without seawater, the Blood Jiao Sea Soul Beast was extremely uncomfortable and its strength was greatly reduced. It had no advantage in the sea. However, its strength was still there. At the same time, the other two sea spirit beasts also noticed that something was wrong. They did not charge towards Wang Feng immediately. Instead, they roared a few times. At this moment, the whale shark suddenly opened its bloody mouth. A ray of light condensed in its mouth. However, it did not spit out. Instead, it produced a terrifying suction force. Boundless seawater surged into the whale shark's mouth. Naturally, it included Wang Feng. The seawater carried Wang Feng and surged into the whale shark's mouth at an extremely fast speed. Even a titled Douluo would not be able to resist such a terrifying suction force in the sea. Wang Feng furrowed his brows and kicked forward. The star cannon in his leg bone combined with the star core to form an intense ray of light. Instantly, it was blasted into the whale shark's mouth. However, the star cannon became much dimmer under the pressure of the seawater. Although it was strengthened by the star core, its strength was much weaker. This was the reason why soul masters on land were weakened in the sea. If they were on land, this attack would be enough to severely injure the whale shark. Right now, the star cannon was blasted into the whale shark's mouth. It only caused the whale shark's lower abdomen to light up. It was as if there was an explosion inside. This whale shark should have been injured as well. However, the injury was not serious. Perhaps to this whale shark, it was equivalent to an ordinary person eating a devil chili. Although it was very uncomfortable, it was not fatal. The suction force in the whale shark's mouth did not decrease. Instead, it became stronger. It was obvious that it was even more furious. At the same time, Wang Feng's torso suddenly lit up. His soul skill turned into an ice-colored ray of light that struck the whale shark's body. However, before it struck the whale shark, the blood-colored flood dragon spat out a ball of blood. This ball of blood exploded in front of the whale shark and formed a blood-colored water wall. When the ice-colored ray of light landed on the water wall, it was instantly frozen into an ice wall. The attack did not reach the whale shark. At the same time, the sea crocodile that looked like Odontosuchus crashed into the ice wall and destroyed it. It directly broke Wang Feng's soul skill. The three aquatic soul beasts were very experienced. They did not have much chemistry with one another. However, as their target was Wang Feng, they naturally had to work together. Cunning and treacherous, Wang Feng furrowed his brows slightly after his soul skill was broken. He did not have a place to exert his strength in the sea. He could not unleash the strength that he had on land. Furthermore, he was indeed very weak now. He originally wanted to use his soul skill to freeze the three soul beasts. Then, he would use his siphon to absorb the soul power of the three soul beasts to quickly replenish himself. He did not expect these three soul beasts to be so experienced. They did not even give him a chance to attack them. As he got closer to the whale shark's mouth, Wang Feng's eyes turned cold. The Xianming flying sword was in the 5,000 meters of sea. The resistance was too great. Its attack power and speed would be greatly reduced. Even if Wang Feng's spiritual power had reached a very powerful level, it was still very easy to dodge in the sea. Furthermore, he could not use the 7 lethal sword technique. He could not use the original Sin domain to affect these three aquatic soul beasts. It had to be said that the timing of these three beasts was really good. End of this chapter. Chapter 740. He could not even use the Pengu axe now. His status was also in a state of disappearing. The universal divine light would not be affected by the three aquatic spirit beasts' cunning. The main reason was that his attacks would be greatly weakened in the sea. He might not even be able to hit the three aquatic spirit beasts. At the same time, he had to use the blue flag to give himself some space to move and reduce the pressure of the sea. Otherwise, the situation would be even more dangerous. The three aquatic spirit beasts roared as they watched Wang Feng being slowly sucked into the sea. They were proud of themselves. Wang Feng was silent for a moment. He then exhaled and said slowly, Let's try the sixth soul skill then. After he finished speaking, Wang Feng turned his palm. Except for the blue flag, the other 4 flags suddenly appeared in his hand. 5 small flags of different shapes appeared in the center of Wang Feng's hand and slowly revolved around it. This was the true and complete form of the innate 5-element flags. When Wang Feng reached rank 69, the last yellow flag, which was the central Wuji apricot yellow flag, finally appeared. Out! Wang Feng shouted. The 5 small flags suddenly became bigger and emitted 5 different lights in different directions. Finally, they gathered into a milky white light and slowly spread out in all directions. The range expanded rapidly. Under this light, all the seawater disappeared. The boundless light instantly shrouded the 3 aquatic spirit beasts. Strands of milky white light merged into the 3 aquatic spirit beasts' bodies. It seemed to have a special binding effect. Suddenly, the 3 aquatic spirit beasts were stunned. The light in the whale shark's mouth slowly disappeared, and the terrifying suction force stopped. Without the seawater, the 3 aquatic spirit beasts who lived in the sea all year round were confused. They did not understand what was going on. But soon they realized what was going on. Domain. This was the power of a domain. And it was not an ordinary domain. Instantly they were isolated from the sea. The 3 aquatic spirit beasts were furious. Without the seawater, their speed would be greatly reduced, and they would be extremely inflexible. But then, a terrifying consciousness came from all directions and attacked the 3 aquatic spirit beasts' mind. Almost instantly, the 3 aquatic spirit beasts' blood-red eyes were in a daze. At the same time, 2 different huge pillars of light, one black and one white, were moving around in the white light like shooting stars. Whenever these light beams brushed past the 3 sea spirit beasts, a huge gash would appear on their bodies, and even their bones would be exposed. These light beams were very similar to the 2 attack light beams launched by the 5-headed star dragon. Innate 5 directions domain. Wang Feng's eyes sparkled. That was right. His 6th soul skill was a domain-type soul skill. Usually, titled battle pet warriors would only use their 9th soul skill. But Wang Feng relied on his 100,000-year soul ring and the special innate 5-element flags to form a powerful soul skill. Innate 5 directions domain. Isolates everything, controls the 5 directions. The domain is sure to hit the spiritual illusion. Moreover, within the domain, the opponent would not be able to release any domain unless their strength far surpassed Wang Feng's. At the same time, it also had a powerful recovery ability, rendering all attacks ineffective against Wang Feng. It also contained 2 special black and white light cannons, which would appear in various parts of Wang Feng's domain with a thought. In addition to fusing the abilities of the 5 flags, there were also 2 additional attacks. It was an extremely powerful attack. The most terrifying effect was that all attacks would be ineffective against Wang Feng, as if he was in a golden state. This was the ability of the Wuji apricot yellow flag, which could make him invincible for 5 seconds. This invincibility was much stronger than the Black Lotus area of effect defense. It could be used about 5 times a day. The yellow flag could be said to be invincible. 25 seconds. However, the innate 5 directions domain was not unrestricted, and Wang Feng was invincible. However, the consumption of the innate 5 directions domain was terrifying. The original Sin's domain consumed spiritual power, and could be maintained for a long time. However, the innate 5 directions domain consumed pure soul power. With Wang Feng's rank 70 soul power, he could only maintain it for 30 seconds. It was different from the Pengu axe. As long as Wang Feng did not swing it, he could hold it in his hand for a long time. However, he could also use up all of his strength in a few seconds. Although this domain was strong, it consumed a lot of soul power. However, it was enough for now. Wang Feng revealed a trace of a smile. The effect of this 6th soul skill was completely revealed after 9 rank. It was worthy of being 100,000-year soul ring and worthy of being called the innate 5-element flags. Although it was a set, it was essentially 5 different magic treasures. With this domain, it was not just these aquatic soul beasts. Even on the sea god's island, the titled Douluo would not be able to gain an advantage over Wang Feng. Anyone who wanted to take advantage of the terrain would not be able to do so. The black and white light pillars in the domain only lasted for 6 to 7 seconds, and the 3 aquatic soul beasts who had lost their seawater were covered in wounds. Blood was flowing. Wang Feng could not last for 30 seconds, and the domain disappeared after 6 to 7 seconds. There was not much soul power left in his body. Wang Feng did not use the blue flag this time, but the white cloud boundary flag. The white cloud boundary flag absorbed the blood of the 3 aquatic soul beasts. When the white cloud boundary flag absorbed the blood of the 3 aquatic soul beasts, Wang Feng's spirit had an additional connection with the 3 aquatic soul beasts. After that, Wang Feng used the blue flag to form a water bubble. He sat cross-legged in the water and quickly recovered his body. After the domain disappeared, the 3 aquatic soul beasts became silent. The 3 soul-returning beasts were trapped by the sea god's lock, and could not enter the white cloud boundary flag for now. However, with this connection, the 3 aquatic soul beasts could not move. In addition to the injuries on their bodies, they did not dare to attack Wang Feng. In the domain, the 3 aquatic soul beasts were not only attacked, but their spirits were also crazily attacked. Now they were in a daze. This domain also contained part of the Starlight 5-headed dragon's domain ability, and it had a strong spiritual attack effect. It was also the only spiritual attack that Wang Feng could use now. With his immense spiritual power, if he did not show mercy earlier, he could have crushed the spirits of these 3 aquatic soul beasts into pieces. Next, Wang Feng only needed to tame these 3 aquatic soul beasts, and it would be much easier. Wang Feng was very experienced in taming soul beasts, not to mention other things. Especially the white cloud boundary flag, it was the best tool to use to tame soul beasts. Because in the white cloud boundary flag, Wang Feng could launch a spiritual attack at any time, and the soul beasts would suffer a fate worse than death. Are you convinced? The 3 of you? Wang Feng transmitted his thoughts into the minds of the 3 soul beasts. The 3 aquatic soul beasts were very quiet, and they barely regained their consciousness. They had been imprisoned in the Central Sea region for too many years. Taming them was more difficult than killing them. End of chapter. Chapter 741. Not convinced. The sea crocodile was the first to answer. If you can unlock the sea god's lock, I will be convinced. The whale shark replied, the sea god's lock can only be unlocked with the approval of the sea god. Same here. The blood dragon replied. Wang Feng smiled. He was not familiar with the soul beasts in the sea, so he did not know the names of these 3 soul beasts. He could only guess their species. Wang Feng was not familiar with their exact age, but compared to Odontosuchus, Shen Bing, and Cowardly Kuan, they were definitely weaker. Cowardly Kuan, the Dark North Emperor Kuan, was a species that few could compare to in the entire continent. Wang Feng did not have much time to waste on them, so he could only tame them in a very short time. Other than the sea crocodile, the other 2 soul beasts seemed to be very sensible. As for unlocking the sea god's lock, Wang Feng smiled. Wang Feng had experienced the toughness of the sea god's lock in the past 4 months. These chains were extremely sturdy and had been constructed from an extremely special material. Even the sword Douluo wouldn't be able to sever them in the seawater. But for Wang Feng, it was a very simple matter. Because Wang Feng had the Cauldron of Universe and the Divine Light of Universe, he could easily break this sea god's lock without using the penguac. As for the sea god's lock, it contained a little bit of the sea god's power, so he could just absorb it. Previously at the Holy Pillar, after the Dark Angel absorbed part of the sea god's power, it was greatly strengthened, and even the original sin's domain changed slightly. Otherwise, he would not have reached 5,500 meters. But after absorbing too much, Wang Feng felt that the Dark Angel was a little bloated. Recently, he had been digesting it, but it should not be a problem to absorb more. After about 2 days of recovery, Wang Feng could finally feel his own strength. Removing the blue flag, and in addition to his status, Wang Feng allowed the huge sea pressure to press on his body. Wang Feng closed his eyes, but his body could completely withstand the current sea pressure. His current physique was more than twice as strong as before. With Wang Feng's previous physique, it was unimaginable to double. Now Wang Feng was not too sure how strong his body was. However, the water pressure of more than 5,500 meters could no longer cause any harm to Wang Feng. After that, Wang Feng used his divine light of universe to lower the quality of the sea god's lock. Then, he used his icebound siphon to absorb the special energy from the lock and infuse it into his dark angel martial soul. After that, he used the Netherism flying sword to directly slash the sea god's lock into two. The 3 aquatic soul beasts were dumbfounded. This thing had bound them for so many years, and they could not break free no matter how hard they tried. In addition, they had never been tamed, so the chains were like maggots in their bones, remaining in their bodies. Now that it had been severed and pulled out, that sour feeling, after Wang Feng had severed the sea god's lock, he had taken the sea crocodile into the white cloud-bound flag and crazily educated it. In just 2 days, he couldn't take it anymore and refused to admit defeat. At this point, the second part of the first test was finally completed. It's time to go up. Wang Feng looked at the dark surface of the sea and revealed a faint smile. Although the first test hadn't been completed yet, there was no reward. But to Wang Feng, the rewards were huge. The increase in his spiritual power, the increase of 2 ranks in 5 months, the increase in his physical strength, and the new 6th soul skill on the coast. 5 months. To Tang San and the rest, the improvement was also huge. After Tang San, Dai Mubai had also reached rank 70. The rest of them had increased by more than 3 ranks, reaching rank 67 or 68. And Shen Lingqi, who was originally at rank 54, had increased by 4 ranks. Before Bai Qinxiang came, she was at rank 49, and in these 5 months, she had already reached rank 50. But in order to absorb more of the God-given soul rings, Bai Qinxiang had been training her body on the steps of the sea god's light. She was not in a hurry to break through. Although everyone's soul power was on the steps of the sea god's light, and their cultivation was very fast. But their progress was average. The strongest, Tang San, was barely at rank 110 after absorbing a 100,000-year soul ring. He was still very far away from reaching the halfway mark. And Tang San felt that after rank 100, every rank was more difficult. With his strength, it was extremely difficult. The progress of the other 6 was around rank 140 and rank 160. How difficult was it? As for the rest of the people, apart from Zhu Zhuqing, even Dai Mubai was only 83 steps away. Zhu Zhuqing was the only one who could keep up with Tang San's progress. She was only 5 to 6 steps away from Tang San. Possessi was very puzzled by this situation, because Zhu Zhuqing's progress proved that her potential should be even higher, and not just the 160th level. Unless the sea god's estimation was wrong, but the sea god definitely wouldn't be wrong. After Tang San finished absorbing the 100,000-year soul ring and reached the 110th step, he stopped, then retreated to the steps of the rest of his friends, and then retreated to the level where everyone was cultivating. It's already been 5 months. Our first test's duration is 1 year. But we're still far away from reaching the halfway mark. Tang San's tone changed slightly. Although we've improved a lot after rank 100, I feel that every step is more difficult. After a day, we might not be able to break through the limit of 1 step. The further we go, the harder it is. Zhu Qing must have a deep understanding of this. Everyone was silent. Zhu Zhuqing nodded lightly and said, "It's indeed very difficult. After rank 100 is another level of difficulty. It's very difficult to reach rank 140. Maybe we really have to use the method that Xiao San mentioned when we reach the end." Dai Mubai muttered, "Only by gathering the strength of the 7 of us can we pass the final test." Everyone nodded in agreement. Tang San frowned slightly. He vaguely felt that there was actually an opportunity that allowed everyone to reach the corresponding level with their own ability. But where exactly was this opportunity? Tang San felt that he seemed to have grasped something. That's right. It seems that nothing happened to those 4 people. At this time, Shun Lingqi suddenly said, "2 months ago, I saw Senior Possessee go into the sea. I think he must have given them soul rings. This means that not only have they been sinking in the sea, but they have also been cultivating to become stronger and then broke through. A month ago, Senior Possessee went into the sea twice. He must have given 2 people soul rings." Everyone nodded slightly. They had also seen it. Possessee went into the sea 3 times, which means that the 3 of them have broken through rank 70. Shun Lingqi said calmly, "Their soul rank is about the same as third brother and big brother Ma. But in these 5 months, their improvement is greater than ours. This is very strange. They haven't gone out to sea yet." They weren't the only ones who felt this strange feeling. Even the purple-clothed soul master who brought them food felt extremely strange. Because this was illogical. They only went into the sea 3 times. But there are 4 of them. Ning Rongrong frowned and said, "There should be one who hasn't broken through." But at this time, on the mountain peak in the distance, a figure gradually floated down and quietly floated on the sea. It wasn't far from them. It was Possessee. Everyone was shocked when they saw this. But this time, Possessee didn't go into the sea. Just as everyone was puzzled, the calm sea in the distance suddenly surged with monstrous waves and countless whirlpools, as if a huge monster was about to appear. P.S. There are still a few chapters left, please count. End of chapter. Chapter 742. The seawater under the sea god mountain would sometimes have waves, and many soul beasts in the sea would jump out from time to time, causing waves of splashes. Sometimes, when they were tired, they could enjoy such beautiful scenery to relieve their stress. But now it was a little strange. The monstrous waves were dozens of meters high, and the huge whirlpool was 50 to 60 meters high. Although it was much smaller than the demon whale that day. But in this ring-shaped sea area, no one had ever seen such a terrifying scene. Could it be that some powerful sea soul beast is about to appear? Ma Hongjun clicked his tongue. In more than 5 months, this is the first time I've seen such a big disturbance in this sea area? Looking at the situation, it's not just one sea soul beast? Under the whirlpool, there were 3 indistinct black figures. I heard from the purple-clothed sea soul master that there are many powerful and unruly sea soul beasts suppressed under the sea god mountain. Oscar thought and said, "Could it be that they want to attack the sea god mountain? These sea soul beasts shouldn't be so stupid. Senior Possessee is still here. Or maybe they want to come out for some fresh air." Oscar's words made everyone laugh. "I feel that it makes sense." Dai Mubai couldn't help but laugh. These sea soul beasts are suppressed under the mountain all year round. Right, do you think it has something to do with that Popedif King Wu? Everyone was stunned. Ning Rongrong giggled. "I think that Popedif King Wu was eaten by them to thank Senior Possessee?" Ha 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 ha. Although Ning Rongrong's thought circuit was strange, it still amused everyone. But at this moment, the commotion in the sea became even bigger. Rumble. First, a terrifyingly huge sea crocodile floated out of the water, emitting a ferocious aura. An 80,000-year windwing blackwater crocodile. Tang San's eyes focused, and his tone was slightly heavy. An 80,000-year windwing blackwater crocodile, with its strength in the sea, even a 10,000-year soul beast on land would find it difficult to deal with. It has 2 attributes, wind and water, but it's mainly water. There are soul beasts similar to it called the windwing snowstorm crocodile. It was similar to the bloodline of a relative, but it was much stronger. The main reason was that the blizzard crocodile was covered in a special ice crystal armor, and its defensive power was extremely astonishing. As for the blackwater crocodile, it only has the ability to control water. Tang San was the famous encyclopedia of soul beasts among the 7 of them. Although he didn't know much about the soul beasts in the sea, he had done a lot of research on the soul beasts in the sea. Before he went out to sea, he had specifically instructed Tang San to look for some of the stronger sea spirit beasts. One of them was the windwing blackwater crocodile. At this moment, as soon as Tang San finished speaking, a blood-colored sea serpent that was nearly 50 meters long also came out of the sea. His thick and long body stirred up ring-like waves on the surface of the sea, splashing up tens of meters high, stirring up the waves in the sea. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that it could overturn rivers and seas. Blood coral sea dragon. Tang San's gaze focused again. I didn't expect such a powerful beast to be suppressed under the sea god mountain. Tang San's gaze landed on the blood coral sea dragon, and his gaze seemed to follow the other party's movements. This sea spirit beast gives off an extremely ferocious feeling. Dai Mubai frowned slightly. Little San, is this soul master very strong? Actually, there was no need to ask. The others could also feel its strength. It was even stronger than the blackwater crocodile. It definitely had a cultivation of more than 80,000 years. Very strong. Tang San nodded. Look at this blood coral sea dragon's head. Don't you see some coral-like hills? This is a sign that it's about to grow horns. Teacher said that once this kind of sea spirit beast grows horns, it will step into the 100,000-year level. This blood coral sea dragon is already more than 90,000 years old. Just like the 200,000-year soul beasts we met in the Great Star Do Forest, they couldn't beat this blood coral sea dragon in the sea. As Tang San spoke, he pointed at the blood coral sea dragon's head. There were indeed 2 bulging bulges. Is it so strong? Yu Zhuqing's voice trembled slightly. Tang San nodded and said, It's like this in the sea. The strength of the soul beasts on land will be greatly reduced when they enter the sea. It's the same for us sea spirit masters. Perhaps only the 7 saint pillars of the sea god's island can deal with a sea spirit beast of this level. Hearing this, Zhu Zhuqing couldn't help but feel nervous. There are only 2 of them. What about the other one in the center of the whirlpool? Ma Hongjun stuck his head out and looked at the whirlpool in the center of the waves. It can create such a big commotion. Could it be a 100,000-year soul beast? Just as Ma Hongjun finished speaking, in the next moment, a giant shark more than 80 meters long appeared on the surface of the sea. Its size was the same as an ordinary whale. It was more than half the size of the demon whale that everyone saw that day. However, this was a real shark. It could be seen from its sharp teeth that were much longer than a normal person's. Is this a shark-type soul beast? How can it be so big? Ning Rongrong opened her mouth. Those demon soul great white demon sharks, the longest one is only 20 meters, and it's a 100,000-year soul beast. They had encountered a demon soul great white demon shark before. At that time, they relied on Tang San's vast sea cosmic shroud to safely leave the group of demon soul great white demon sharks. But that was a normal shark. This is not a normal shark. Tang San shook his head and said, This is one of the overlords of the sea, the whale shark. This one should be a 10,000 demon whale shark. This kind of soul beast is not inferior to a 100,000-year soul beast like the demon soul great white demon shark. Also, looking at its size, it should only be around 90,000 years old. If it's a 100-meter-long 10,000 demon whale shark, it should be a 100,000-year soul beast. This should be the strongest of the 3. I think the strongest of the 7 saint pillars, the sea dragon saint pillar, should be able to suppress this soul beast. Tang San's explanation made everyone understand the origin of these three soul beasts. In fact, they could feel the strength of these three soul beasts just by their aura. But the three of them were not worried. Possessi was in the air in front of them. After the 10,000 demon whale shark floated to the surface of the sea, the three soul beasts roared at the same time. At this moment, a surprised voice suddenly sounded from Tang San's mouth. "Hey, there seems to be a person standing on the 10,000 demon whale shark?" Everyone was stunned when they heard this. Immediately, they hurriedly looked over and saw a figure in black fluttering clothes. At this moment, he was standing in front of the most powerful 10,000 demon whale shark with his hands behind his back. They took a look. Suddenly, they were all stunned, because this figure was not someone else. It was Wang Wu, who went into the sea 5 months ago and never came up again, the white-clothed Popetiff from the Martial Spirit Palace. In an instant, the 9 people were dumbfounded. Being able to stand on such a ferocious sea soul beast was enough to explain everything. Then, the content of this Wang Wu's first test appeared in everyone's mind. Only now did they remember. Immediately, the 9 of them sucked in a breath of cold air. End of this chapter. Chapter 743. Could it be that Wang Wu used these 5 months to not only sink 5,000 meters, but also tamed 3 aquatic spirit beasts? And these 3 aquatic spirit beasts are above 80,000 years old. Ma Hongjun murmured, "This is too scary, isn't it? Is this something a human can do? He must have cheated, right?" 5 months. Ma Hongjun's nagging caused the others to fall silent. 5 months of doubt and rejoicing, in this instant, all turned into incomparable shock. How is this possible? Shouldn't he have been eaten? Ning Rongrong murmured. Ah! This bastard, how can he be so powerful? Zhu Qing, tell me, how can he be so strong? He must have cheated. Zhu Qing. She turned her head, and a trace of unknown joy appeared on her face. She turned her head and nodded her head. Yes, he must have cheated. What do you mean by must have? Senior Possessi must have seen through him. However, Possessi floated in the air and slowly landed on the back of the 10,000 demon whale shark. This made the 10,000 demon whale shark even more obedient and motionless. If they were in the deep sea, he would not be afraid of this high priest. In the deep sea, this high priest of the sea god's island could kill the 10,000 demon whale shark, but he would have to pay a considerable price. However, it was not difficult to kill the 10,000 demon whale shark in this sea level. However, it already had a master. You really did it. Possessi looked at the black-clothed man in front of him with surprise in his eyes. In the past few decades, these few months were the most surprising days for him. One surprise after another happened in front of him. It was unbelievable. In 5 months, he tied 3 sea gods' locks and sank 5,500 meters in this ring-shaped sea area. If this was the case, Possessi could barely understand. However, in 5 months, he was able to tame 3 aquatic spirit beasts? Possessi. Logically speaking, Bai Saishi felt as if he was dreaming when these 3 aquatic soul beasts first appeared. Because these 3 sea spirit beasts had always been in this ring-shaped sea ever since she became the chief consecrator. She herself had tried to tame these 3 ferocious deep-sea beasts several times, but she had failed in the past few years. A distance of more than 5,000 meters was somewhat stressful for her. Furthermore, these 3 aquatic spirit beasts were always together, and it was impossible to tame them all at once. Furthermore, they were sly and cunning, so these 3 soul beasts wouldn't come up. No matter how she tried to seduce him, there was nothing she could do. Because at the very least, Possessi was able to tame it. But the other party just stayed at the bottom of the sea. This was Possessi's first time seeing these 3 aquatic soul beasts. Out to the sea. How could he not be surprised? What surprised Possessi the most was that Wang Wu, what method did he use to tame them at the bottom of the sea? Possessy was sure that Wang Wu must be extremely tired and weak when he reached the bottom of the sea. With the craftiness of these three aquatic soul beasts, it was obvious that they would choose to attack at that time. Therefore, Possessy inferred that Wang Wu should be extremely dangerous. The best result would be for him to escape in a sorry state. Instead, he should be standing on the back of the 10,000 demon whale shark and appearing quite carefree like this, strange and puzzling. Is this something difficult? Wang Feng said calmly. After spending so much effort, he still had to pretend. Possessy. Possessy smiled and looked at Wang Feng. You don't look old, but you can really do this. I have to say that you have done a great favor for the Sea God's Island. You're welcome, Wang Feng said. Who's being polite to you? Possessy couldn't help but laugh. Also, I'm more than 40 years old. I may not be old in front of you, Wang Feng continued. However, Possessy shook his head and said, No, you're not 40 years old. Your bone age is at most 20 years old. You can't hide your aura from me. Wang Feng smiled and didn't say anything. Possessy was probably the most powerful soul master in the entire continent from the perspective of a human soul master. On the Sea God's Island, it was impossible to hide from him. However, I'm curious, you don't seem to be lying. Possessy was a little confused. On the Sea God's Island, she was not only invincible, but also all-knowing. She could tell if Wang Feng was lying. Of course, Wang Feng wasn't lying. Although his bone age was only in his 20s, his 2 lives made him more than 40 years old. However, Possessy couldn't possibly know this. I've already bestowed your 3 disciples with God-bestowed soul rings. Although I don't know what method you used to help them sink to the bottom of the sea so quickly. However, the method you used is very powerful. Possessy couldn't help but praise. The potential of the 3 of them has been greatly stimulated. They'll reach their goal in half a month at most. When Possessy went down to bestow the soul rings to Hulaina and the others, he naturally felt the changes in them. He could confirm that the 3 of them hadn't cheated in any way. The most obvious point was that their soul power had increased very quickly, and their bodies were becoming stronger. If they had cheated, there wouldn't have been such an obvious improvement. It could only be said that Wang Wu had used some kind of divine tool to create a special method for the 3 of them to achieve such an effect. It's normal. Wang Feng nodded. Seeing this, Bai Saishi had a better understanding of Wang Wu's character. He was arrogant, strong, and responsible. The quality was quite good. Your soul power has reached rank 70. This soul ring was given to you by the Sea God. A soul ring appeared in Possessy's hand. I think your disciples should have told you? Wang Feng nodded slightly. I'm very curious, your soul power rank is very strange. Possessy's eyes flashed. Even I can't be completely sure if this soul power rank is rank 70. Hulaina's people couldn't sense his soul power rank. However, as the great consecrator of the Sea God's Island, Possessy could sense it clearly. However, after understanding it, Possessy was even more puzzled. How did a soul master with a soul power rank of less than rank 70 achieve a soul power rank lower than his 3 disciples? Furthermore, how could the Sea God give such a terrifying test to a soul master with a soul power rank of 70? Even the 7 Saint Pillars couldn't complete any of the first test. They really couldn't complete it. Even the 7 Saint Pillars couldn't complete it with just 3 Sea God's locks and 5,500 meters down. Only she could complete it. Hence, Possessy was very curious about this. Furthermore, Possessy was even more curious. What was the limit of the soul rings he could bear? End of chapter. Chapter 744. However, Wang Feng did not answer. Instead, he said, let me try to absorb the soul rings first. Let's talk about the remaining part of the first test. Possessy did not object. Whether he absorbed the soul rings or not, they were here anyway. Oh yes. You have completely tamed these 3 aquatic soul beasts. Possessy seemed to have thought of something. I will remove the sea god's lock for them later. You can bring them back to the sea, but I suggest you put them under the sea god's mountain. If a beast of this level were to enter the sea again, who knew how many sea creatures would suffer a calamity? Even if they were tamed temporarily, their wild nature was hard to change. As long as they were not restrained, they would return to their original nature sooner or later. They needed to be tamed for a long period of time. However, it was obvious that Huoyuhao could not bring them with him. The largest of these 3 aquatic soul beasts was 80 meters in size. No soul tool could contain such a creature. Hence, Possessi suggested to put them under the sea god's mountain. Huoyuhao could slowly tame them and cultivate them. After all, these strong and ferocious aquatic soul beasts would be a great help if they were tamed. There is no need. I have already broken the sea god's lock. Wang Feng shook his head. This is also part of my test. Possessi froze on the spot. You broke it? Possessi closed her eyes and sensed the 3 aquatic soul beasts carefully. She was shocked. It was really gone. The sea god's lock on these 3 aquatic soul beasts was not simple. To be precise, all the sea god's locks were strengthened by the sea god's power. It was impossible to break them. If it was so easy, these aquatic soul beasts would have escaped long ago. As for the test, Possessi thought that it was impossible to complete it, but now that she thought about it, Huoyuhao was able to miraculously tame these 3 aquatic soul beasts. It did not seem impossible. How did he do it? Possessi murmured. Only she could unlock the sea god's lock on these aquatic soul beasts, but now it was really broken. Possessi could not say anything because this was part of Huoyuhao's test. Forget it. Go through the light of the sea god first. I will keep the soul rings for you. Since the sea god's lock is broken, what do you plan to do with my 3 aquatic soul beasts? Possessi looked at Wang Feng. At this moment, the 3 sea spirit beasts roared. Wang Feng said, "Take him away." The reason for taking him away was simple. Wang Feng discovered that this sea crocodile seemed to be a female and belonged to a rather rare species. She happened to be Odontosuchus's type. He thought about how Odontosuchus was the first soul beast that he had subdued. He was also the one who had given him advice to subdue the other 3 soul beasts. She should at least find him a partner, right? This was the wife that she had promised to find for him. Also, this whale shark's body size was very compatible with the cowardly Kuan. As for the blood-horn dragon, it was just like a simpleton. Thus, due to all sorts of reasons, Wang Feng naturally had to bring his 3 subordinates away. Odontosuchus should be happy to bring it to the extreme north. In any case, there was also the ice sea in that place. Although the cultivation environment wasn't bad for them, the ice sea wasn't too bad. He could even let them out to fight when he was free. Especially the blood-horned dragon. If the blood-horned dragon grew to 100,000 years old, not only would it grow horns on its head, but it would also have the ability to fly. Alright, but it's not easy to take these 3 soul beasts away. Possessi smiled. Wang Feng remained silent. With the strength of the white cloud-bound flag and his current spiritual power, he would be able to contain even 3 more white cloud beasts, let alone 3. The 3 of you, stay in this sea region and behave yourselves. I'll take you away when the time comes. Wang Feng used his mind and the dark mystic sword appeared beneath his feet. He casually instructed them. After the white cloud boundary flag had absorbed the blood of the 3 soul beasts, Wang Feng could even communicate with the 3 soul beasts using his spiritual power from a long distance away. The 3 soul beasts roared meekly before they sank into the sea. Seeing this, Possessi brought Wang Feng to the bottom of the stairs of the sea god's light. At the same time, not far from the stairs, Tang San and the others were silently looking at Wang Feng. Whether it was Ma Hongjuan's nagging or Ning Rongrong's speculation, they had all been dispelled. Cheating? He seems like he's about to start the last test of the first test. Bai Qinxiang frowned slightly and said, This Popediff King Fifth is really a mysterious person. Third brother, it's hard to imagine that you were opponents with this kind of person before. Tang San smiled bitterly. Yes. When the news of Popediff King Fifth's death came, Tang San felt very relaxed. One could imagine how much pressure it was to be an opponent with this kind of person. This Popediff King Fifth had a very special aura. It was the kind of feeling that he could do anything. This was very similar to Brother Feng. Tang San felt that Brother Feng should be the most suitable opponent for this Popediff King Fifth. Ning Rongrong watched as Possessi brought Wang Feng to the edge of the jade white stairs. She was like a deflated balloon. How many steps do you think he can reach? At this time, Oscar suddenly said, with Senior Possessi here, he probably won't attack us halfway. But with his strength, how many steps can he reach? Also, Senior Possessi seemed to have given him a god-bestowed soul ring. This means that he should have reached a certain level of soul power? Is he at rank 90? Oscar's words immediately brought everyone back to their senses from their earlier shock, and they all began to ponder. Possessi's appearance was definitely not just because of the three soul beasts. Everyone was silent for a moment. They couldn't come to a conclusion. A conservative estimate is at least 400 steps. Shen Lingqi was the first to speak after pondering for a moment. Back then, he was able to defeat Senior Sword Douluo. This means that he's definitely a titled Douluo. Every step depends on one's strength. Soul power rank is only one of the factors. Shen Lingqi's words seemed to have opened everyone's mouth. Then I'll estimate 444 steps. Ma Hongjun chuckled. I estimate 460 steps. Dai Mubai looked at the endless steps and shook his head. I estimate 480 steps. Bai Qinxiang thought for a moment. I estimate 477 steps. Oscar thought for a moment. I estimate 500 steps. Ning Rongrong snorted coldly. Seeing this, everyone looked at Ning Rongrong in surprise. Rongrong, don't you have a grudge against this Popediff King Fifth? Why do you estimate so high? Ma Hongjun was astonished. 500? Ning Rongrong giggled. 500. That's 250. Everyone, I estimate 510 steps, Tang San frowned and said. Everyone was stunned again. However, Tang San had his reasons for estimating so high. Then, I estimate 520 steps. Zhu Zhuqing thought for a long time before saying slowly. At this moment, everyone looked at the foot of the mountain. Popediff King Fifth had already lifted his foot and ascended to the first step. P.S. Sorry, it's a little late today. But I still ask for tickets. End of chapter. Chapter 745. The 1001st step was shrouded in a faint light. The top of the stairs couldn't be seen. This was because it circled around the Sea God Mountain. Wang Feng looked up and could see Tang San and the others standing above like a few small black dots. When Wang Feng stepped on the first step, he roughly understood what this sea god's light was. Similar to the sea, there was pressure coming from all directions. But it was much stronger. This pressure caused great resistance to those who stepped on the stairs, and their soul power was also consumed at an accelerated rate. After only a few steps, Wang Feng roughly knew that the pressure of this sea god's light increased by about 10% with each step. In the form of a series of numbers, it gradually increased. In general, the difficulty was not much different from sinking into the deep sea, but it was much more dangerous. Let's see my limit first. Wang Feng didn't walk up the stairs quickly. He walked at an average speed and was even a little slow. He was even slower than Tang San and the others when they first climbed. He was also thinking in his heart. Look at my limit, then absorb the God-given soul ring and find a way to help Tang San and the others quickly improve their strength and pass through the sea god's light without exposing my identity. This was more difficult. Wang Feng looked. Tang San and the others hadn't even reached half of the steps in the past 5 months. Even if they could complete it in a year, it would take too long. He had to lock them down and let them pass the sea god's light test within 3 months, or even 2 months. Hulaina and the others could shorten the time by half with his help. Tang San and the others with greater potential should not be a problem. After thinking for a while, Wang Feng had a rough idea. But the first thing to do now was to look at the sea god's light and estimate his limit. Possessi watched quietly. She also wanted to see how far this Wang Wu could go. The other party's test was the strangest she had ever seen, but he could still complete the first 2 parts, which proved that his current strength was enough to improve. But it was actually very difficult to climb to the 1001st step under the pressure of the sea god's light. The most difficult was the last step. Tang San and the others were also watching. Wang Wu's speed was not fast. On the contrary, it was rising at a constant speed and even a little slow. Why is he so slow? Bai Chenxiang was a little puzzled. With his strength, he should be able to rise to our position soon, right? For example, if Tang San and the others were to ascend from the first level again, they would be able to reach the limit position very quickly. This was because the faster they reached the limit position, the more soul power they would be able to conserve to ascend to higher levels. Is it because he came up from below and didn't have any soul power to pass through the light of the sea god? Is that why he became like this? As soon as Shen Lingqi finished speaking, she shook her head. That's not right. His aura is distant and long. It doesn't seem like he has no soul power. Everyone was puzzled. I think he's too weak. Ning Rongrong snorted. Could it be that the sea god's light exerts different pressure on people of different strengths? But if it's not the same, then our progress is about the same. At this moment, Tang San seemed to have thought of something. I think he's using this special method to train himself. He was able to see his limit in advance. The slower he moves, the more obvious it is. Hearing this, everyone was even more puzzled. They looked at Tang San in astonishment. The slower he moves, the more obvious the pressure he has to bear. The more soul power he consumes, the faster he can reach his body's limit. Tang San continued, on the steps, the faster we ascend, the less obvious the pressure is. It's like we're sitting on a certain level to cultivate. Everyone seemed to understand something. Dai Mubai gave it a try. His limit was around the 80th level, but he cultivated at the 50th level. This way, his soul power consumption could reach an average level and increase his cultivation speed. If he cultivated at the 80th level, it would be impossible to withstand that kind of pressure for a long time, let alone cultivate. From the 50th level, Dai Mubai imitated Wang Wu. He slowly lifted his feet and stepped on the 51st level. It was as if he was moving in slow motion. It took him about 30 seconds to step on the 51st level, but his whole body was sweating profusely. This consumption is a bit exaggerated. Dai Mubai couldn't help but be a little shocked. 1/10 of my soul power has been consumed. According to my original speed, I can cross the 51st level in a second and not even 1% of my soul power has been consumed. Tang San's eyes flashed. The reason was very simple. It was like doing a push-up in a second was not tiring and did not consume much energy. But if you did a push-up in a minute, you would collapse from exhaustion after finishing. Wang Feng had been reaching his limit in the deep sea at a constant speed. Other than allowing himself to adapt, it was also to determine his own limit and quickly consume his soul power. Otherwise, Wang Feng could have reached the 4,500-meter position in a shorter time. But if he reached it so quickly, Wang Feng's body would not have improved so much. We can try this method. Choose 10 levels to climb once. Tang San thought for a while and said, let's reach our limit quickly and then cultivate to improve our physical strength. This time, we don't need to climb very fast. On the contrary, the slower the better. Everyone nodded. At this time, Wang Wu had already reached the 30th level. His speed was still not fast. He was just carefully feeling the intensity of the light of the sea god and the consumption of his soul power. There should be more changes above the 100th level. It increases by 10% on each level. There should be a qualitative change between the 100th and the 1000th level. Wang Fengxin pondered. Soon, Wang Feng was close to Tang San and the others. The steps were very wide, enough to accommodate more than 10 people. At this time, Tang San and the others also stopped and looked at Wang Wu. There was a special emotion in their hearts. Among them, Ning Rongrong was the most emotional. She glared at Wang Feng fiercely. On the 50th level, Wang Feng stopped and looked at Ning Rongrong. "What are you looking at?" Ning Rongrong snorted. "Climb for me." Wang Feng. Rongrong, this girl, actually remembered what he said to her when they first met. Wang Feng shook his head and said, "Is this your limit in 5 months?" Wang Feng stepped on the steps under his feet and said calmly, "This progress is too slow. I think it's impossible for you to complete the first test. You're too weak. Leave the group, leave the mountain." Ning Rongrong raised her eyebrows. She was angry and was about to say something. However, Wang Feng ignored him and walked up to him. "This bastard." Ning Rongrong snorted and shouted angrily, "Are you looking down on us? Just you wait." "Okay, I'll wait for you on the 1001st level." Wang Feng did not look back. Ning Rongrong's face turned red. Popetiff Wang Wu is so arrogant. He deserves his reputation. Ma Hongjun narrowed his eyes. Looks like it's time to show the true strength of the evil phoenix. F***CK. End of chapter. Chapter 746. His arrogant words and calm tone immediately made everyone angry, as if they had been injected with chicken blood. However, Wang Feng did not care. Soon, he reached the 100th floor and entered the 100th floor. The pressure suddenly increased a lot. A qualitative change. A real qualitative change. Wang Feng's figure paused slightly, but there was still no change. His speed was still climbing at a constant speed, neither fast nor slow. The light of the sea god was still wrapped around the sea god mountain, sprinkling on the 1000-floor stairs. Wang Feng walked while admiring the surrounding scenery, and his height was slowly rising. Wang Feng had gone around the circular stairs several times, and unknowingly, he had reached the 200th floor. Although Wang Feng's speed was very slow, in the eyes of Tang San and the others, it was already so fast that it made people's hair stand on end. Because they had spent 5 months, and only Tang San and Zhu Zhuqing had broken through the 100th floor. But now Wang Feng had reached the 200th floor in less than an hour. The most terrifying thing was, his speed was still rising at a constant speed. This meant that he was far from reaching his limit. After the second hour, Wang Feng reached the 100th floor again. At this time, Tang San and the others, who followed Wang Feng's method of climbing at a constant speed, began to cultivate on the fixed stairs. In the third hour, Wang Feng reached the 400th floor. Tang San and the others also recovered a little. They looked up at the gradually shrinking figure and didn't know what to say for a moment. "His speed hasn't changed yet," Oscar bared his teeth. "Is he a monster? How strong is his body? Look at the height, at least the 400th floor." "Silence. It seems that we have underestimated him," Bai Qinxiang whispered. It was more than underestimating. When they saw that Popetiff Wang Wu had reached the 500th floor and his speed hadn't slowed down, everyone felt their scalps tingle. That enormous gap made everyone feel as if they were facing a towering mountain. After entering the 500th floor, Wang Feng finally felt some pressure. But it was not enough. It only put some pressure on Wang Feng's physical fitness. His speed still didn't change and continued to rise. When he reached the 600th floor, the pressure he felt was very clear. Wang Feng's speed had some subtle changes. It was already afternoon. Wang Feng increased his speed slightly, because if he continued at the same speed, he would use up too much of his soul force. He might run out of soul force before he reached his limit. He's accelerating. Tang San and the others were also looking up at the tiny figure in the air at an angle of 75 degrees. It was only at the 600th floor that the crowd saw the other party accelerate. After accelerating, Wang Feng passed through each level faster than before. It was as if he was flying. In just a moment, he had reached the 700th level. The terrifying pressure of the 700th floor of the Sea God's Light was beyond everyone's imagination. The strongest among them, Tang San, would be sent flying after stepping onto the 111th floor. It was hard to bear that terrifying pressure. Have you guys encountered a problem? He doesn't seem to have enhanced himself or revealed his martial soul. How many soul bones does he have? At this moment, Tang San spoke slowly. Everyone was shocked. However, at this moment, they could no longer see the other party's figure clearly. When Wang Feng stepped onto the 800th floor, his body seemed to be crackling. Wang Feng had to activate the power of the blood mark and his soul bones to continue moving forward. Although this level is much less than the depth of the sea, the enhancement of each level is too much. Wang Feng shook his head secretly. 10% did not seem much, but it was very exaggerated. The pressure of each level had to be increased by 10%. The 10% here was an increase of 10% on the basis of the previous level. However, at the 800th floor, Wang Feng was already more than 400 meters high. Tang San and the others below were very small. The Sea God's Light also blocked their vision and perception. Even Tang San could only see a blurry shadow. He could not even accurately estimate his own level. Possessi was still watching quietly. She did not know what the other party's limit was. How many levels could he reach in one breath? Halfway up the mountain, Wang Feng's eyes were solemn. His footsteps were a little heavy. His speed had completely decreased. To be precise, he had stopped. The 857th floor. Relying on the power of the blood mark and the 4 soul bones to reduce the pressure, he was already close to his limit. If he enhanced himself further, reaching the 900th floor would not be a problem. Passing through the Sea God's Light did not consume much of Wang Feng's spiritual power. This was because this environment was much more comfortable than the deep sea. When he was tired, he could still look at the scenery around him. Or, he could retreat dozens of levels and cultivate as he cultivated. There was no pressure on his spiritual power. However, it consumed a lot of soul power. The burden on his body was not inferior to that of the deep sea. Fortunately, Wang Feng had already passed the test of sinking into the deep sea. Right now, his body was very strong. Rank 70 soul power was enough to make Wang Feng's soul power comparable to a titled Doulu. Wang Feng did not enhance himself in the end. He forced his way to the 900th floor. The 900th floor was like another world. The pressure of the Sea God's Light made Wang Feng feel like he was in another world. His entire body felt like it was being squeezed by a pressure machine. There are still 101 levels left. Wang Feng estimated the soul power in his body and the strength that his body could withstand. Then, he calculated the intensity of the enhancement. Wang Feng estimated that it should be around the 990th floor. As for the remaining 11 floors, it would probably take him a month to reach them. Possessi, let's stop here for now. Wang Feng shook his head. He had already reached his limit by using the power of his blood patterns. It's time to put some pressure on little 3 and the rest. He looked at the sky. It was filled with stars. The night sky above the sea was very beautiful. It was as if the sky was lit up. It did not make one feel dark at all. The flickering and pulsating stars and the disk-like moon were all emitting a clear and cold light. Compared to the increasingly dark and empty deep sea, this place made one feel very comfortable. Your limit should be more than this. Bai Saishi looked at Wang Feng, who was on the stairs. Her eyes sparkled. The only difference between sinking 5,500 meters and passing through the 1,001st floor of the sea god's light was the last few floors. This was especially so for the last floor. Wang Wu could withstand 5,000 meters of the deep sea and carry 3 sea gods' lock. His current limit was at least the 950th floor. He would not stop at the 900th floor. You can tell me when you need to absorb a god-bestowed soul ring. Possessee did not ask Wang Feng why he stopped at the 900th floor. After instructing him, he disappeared in mid-air. Wang Feng was silent for a moment. He looked at the remaining 100 floors. After that, he started to walk down. End of chapter. Chapter 747. This doesn't feel right. This light of the sea god is too easy. According to my progress, I will reach the top in less than a month. Although the later stages are more difficult, there seems to be a big difference between this and my previous 2 tests. Wang Feng felt that it was a little strange. Compared to the light of the sea god, Wang Feng felt that sinking into the deep sea and subduing 3 sea spirit beasts were more difficult. The 2 tests were linked together, and the actual difficulty was much higher. The 1,001st step should be a little strange. Could it be on the last checkpoint? Wang Feng thought as he walked down. Why was there an extra step in the 1,001st step? Wasn't it good to have 1,000 steps? Why did there have to be an extra step to kill someone with OCD? Wang Feng sat down and started to meditate after reaching the 800th step. Even though he had reached rank 70 and couldn't level up, he could still cultivate and store the soul power he had accumulated. Furthermore, he still had the meteoric tier. Once he absorbed the god-bestowed soul ring, he should be able to level up even more. Wang Feng did not absorb the god-bestowed soul ring now because he wanted to increase his strength quickly and increase his tolerance. Wang Feng estimated that he should be able to withstand a soul ring with a cultivation of 4 to 500,000 years. His limit could be even higher. It would be too difficult if it was a million-year soul ring. After all, it was only his 7th soul ring. Wang Feng felt that only his 8th soul ring could be a million-year soul ring. But thinking about it, there were no million-year soul beasts in the Douluo world. Soul beasts of that level were half a step into the realm of God. There were not many of them. He closed his eyes, and the spiritual power in his sea of consciousness flowed like a river. In an instant, it was as if the stars in the sky were shining brighter. Endless moonlight poured down and landed on Wang Feng's body, making him look like an ancient god. The energy between heaven and earth started to move. Under the night sky, the calm sea seemed to be affected by the movement of the energy between heaven and earth, and waves started to appear. In the light of the sea god, there was no wind at all, but there was also a breeze caused by energy. Then, endless energy from heaven and earth flowed towards the sea god mountain crazily. The gentle breeze gradually turned into a cool breeze. In the end, it turned into a gale, a hurricane, and finally, a terrifying energy tornado was formed. It enveloped more than half of the sea god mountain. Wang Feng, who was in the center, was emitting a bright luster. He was as motionless as a mountain, absorbing the endless energy through meditation. Meanwhile, the 50th floor. After a day of training, Tang San and the others were all exhausted and meditating. The 9 of them opened their eyes at the same time as the breeze blew. Where is the wind coming from? Why does it feel like the energy in this place has increased? Dai Mubai looked at them doubtfully. What do you think? Everyone nodded in agreement. He had been cultivating on this platform for 5 months, so he was naturally very familiar with it. Cultivating under the pressure of the light of the sea god could increase his cultivation speed. However, the energy around the sea god mountain had never changed. Although it was very dense, it wasn't like this, where a special breeze was blowing. Not only could the light of the sea god defend against reflected attacks, but it could also isolate many of them. Just as everyone was puzzled, the wind changed. In less than 100 seconds, the breeze turned into a violent gale. The surging energy was frantically squeezing the light of the sea god from the outside. "What's going on?" Oscar waved his hand. They could feel the enormous energy fluctuation. The higher they went, the denser the energy became. Could this be a reward from Senior Possessi? Ma Hongjun looked at the sky. That doesn't make sense. Shin Lingqi pondered for a moment and said, "It feels like the sea god's island is absorbing the energy of heaven and earth. The energy here has suddenly become denser. It seems to have changed again." The few of them chatted for a while. At this moment, the gale turned into a real hurricane. It was as if an energy feast had started on the sea god mountain. In an instant, the 9 people's expressions changed dramatically. Even though they hadn't started to meditate, the terrifying flow of energy was rushing straight in from the outside, surging upwards. The energy density suddenly increased by several levels. "Quick! Let's start cultivating." Tang San's expression changed slightly as he suddenly opened his mouth and said. The other 8 people did not hesitate. They sat down and began meditating. The sudden change in the energy density made everyone feel somewhat incredulous. However, they did not have the time to think too much about it. They could only make the best use of their time and quickly absorb the sudden energy torrent. The 800th step. Wang Feng did not just rely on himself to absorb energy. At the same time, he was also using his mind power to attract a huge amount of energy to gather here. That was why he could create such a terrifying momentum. The purpose was very simple. In addition to cultivating for himself, he also wanted to let Tang San and the others enjoy this kind of benefit a little. 5 months ago, when he was cultivating with Hu Laina and the others, Wang Feng's mind power was not so strong. At that time, it was only a stream. Now, it was like a surging river. Once he started meditating, the momentum would be even greater. Moreover, Wang Feng consciously used his mind power to control the density of the energy around him. Otherwise, Tang San and the others would be so far away from him. The effect would not be very good. It was not like Hu Laina, who was not far away from him back then. The advantage of increasing one's mind power was that meditation cultivation would also improve very quickly. This was also one of the reasons why Tang San's cultivation speed was far faster than the others in the later stage. Time passed by unknowingly. The moon quietly hid. It was dawn. Wang Feng opened his eyes, and he was quite happy. There were still benefits to cultivating in this place, much better than in the deep sea. Because when he cultivated in the deep sea, Wang Feng still needed to use the blue flag to absorb the energy in the sea. But here, he did not need it. Although his soul power rank did not increase, his soul power was stored. When he obtained a soul ring, his soul power rank should increase a lot. I don't know how much Tang San and the others have improved. It should not be enough to just increase the density. Wang Feng lightly jumped down from the stairs and arrived at the first floor. He started walking again. This time, he intended to put some pressure on Tang San and the others. Otherwise, they could only pass the test in 1 year, which was too slow. And at this time, the 50th step. Tang San and the others opened their eyes at the same time. Tang San, Dai Mubai, Xiao Wu, and Zhu Zhuqing were cultivating on the 50th step. The others, Oscar, Ning Rongrong, and Shin Lingqi, were on the 40th, 42nd, and 35th steps respectively. Bai Chenxiang was cultivating on the 20th step. They were not far away, only more than 10 meters apart. After opening their eyes, they were all silent. End of this chapter. Chapter 748. After that, Ning Rongrong used her skull's soul skill, illusory space, to connect the 9 of them together so that they could communicate. 1 night of cultivation is equivalent to several days of our cultivation. Oscar was the first to speak. Did Senior Possessi really do this? The energy concentration on the sea god's mountain suddenly changed, and it only lasted for one night. Why didn't Senior do this before? Ma Hongjun shook his head. But the effect is amazing. One night of cultivation is equivalent to 2 days of our cultivation. It's ridiculous. I feel like I can climb one more step. Hee, as long as it's beneficial to us. Ning Rongrong laughed. Instead of thinking so much, why don't we climb a few more steps? Let's hope something like this happens again tonight. Could it have something to do with Wang Wu? Shen Lingqi asked. After he reached the 700th level yesterday, we couldn't see him anymore. We don't know where he is either. However, all of you should be able to sense that the energy is flowing upward. It's not just increasing the energy concentration on the entire Sea God's Island. Could something be absorbing this energy to increase the speed of cultivation, and we're affected? It had to be said that Shen Lingqi's words stunned several people. Last night, the direction of the energy was indeed upward. This meant that something was attracting the energy from above, but there was only Wang Wu above the Sea God's palace. There was no such coincidence in the world. Wang Wu had just entered the Sea God's light when something like this happened. They had never encountered such a situation before. Therefore, it could only be caused by Wang Wu. Everyone fell silent when they thought of this. Could it be that he's cultivating? Unknowingly, everyone felt their mouths dry up. If that was the case, Wang Wu could trigger such a terrifying energy just by meditating. They had only touched it a little, and they had improved so much? One had to know that the position of the 9 of them was a full 800 levels away from Wang Wu's position. In fact, Wang Feng was using his spiritual power to control the energy concentration. Of course, they couldn't sense it. This is too frightening. Ma Hongjun shook his head frantically. A person can change the flow of energy in this direction just by meditating. Even Senior Possessee doesn't have such a powerful ability, right? This possibility was already somewhat beyond their imagination. That was because they didn't know how monstrous Wang Feng's body was. Even more so, they didn't know that Wang Feng's mental strength had already materialized, and was like a surging river. In that case, we're basking in his glory? Ning Rongrong pouted and said, would he be so kind? Of course he wouldn't be so kind-hearted. But this is definitely not something he can control. Shen Lingqi said, such a huge flow of energy is not something that can be controlled by a human. However, it is hard to imagine how he did it with his cultivation speed and the momentum he created. Tang San frowned slightly as he watched the crowd talking. Was it really impossible to control it? Indeed, if he could really control it, why would the other party be so kind? Only Zhu Zhuqing remained silent, listening to their discussion. Brother, actually, I think it's not that simple. Xiao Wu muttered in a low voice. Although Xiao Wu hadn't fully resurrected, the consciousness hidden in her soul ring could temporarily return to her body. Although she couldn't stay for long, she could still climb the stairs with them sometimes. What's wrong? Tang San looked at Xiao Wu. Xiao Wu, what do you think is the problem? Xiao Wu opened her mouth and was about to say something when suddenly, humph, that bastard is here again. Ning Rongrong snorted and pointed down the mountain. The rest of the people continued to read on. Sure enough, Wang Feng was slowly walking up from the foot of the mountain. However, this time, Wang Feng was climbing the stairs, a little different. A pitch-black light was emitted from Wang Feng's body. Although it was blocked by the light of the sea god, it still covered an area of 100 meters. A terrifying aura was released from Wang Feng's body. Tang San and the others felt that aura almost as soon as Wang Feng stepped onto the 20th step. There was also the power of a domain. Seeing this, Tang San and the others were shocked. They didn't know what Wang Feng wanted to do. Was he going to attack them? Wasn't that courting death? This was the Sea God Mountain. If they dared to act recklessly, they would be suppressed by the possessee in an instant. They couldn't even leave the island. But soon, they didn't have time to think. Because with the original sin's domain and the soul power pressure, everyone's expression changed drastically. It was a double pressure that was stronger than the light of the sea god on the stairs they were on. It was far beyond their limits. Especially as Wang Feng approached, the impact of the original sin's domain and the soul power pressure became more and more intense. Under the double pressure, the 9 of them didn't have time to think. They could only crazily circulate the soul power that they had just recovered from last night to quickly resist the impact. The current original sin's domain was the complete version, but Wang Feng controlled it and only used a part of its strength. However, the soul power pressure was real. His soul power rank wasn't high, but it was enhanced by 300,000-year soul rings. After being compressed and purified, even if his soul rings weren't revealed, his soul power was much stronger than the 7 of them. It was comparable to a titled Douluo's soul power. How could that be a joke? Just like that, Wang Feng walked slowly towards the 5 of them, one step at a time. He walked very slowly and at a constant speed. However, with every step he took, the 9 of them felt like their bodies were about to explode. However, they were at the null boundary point and couldn't explode. It was a huge burden on their bodies and minds. The first to collapse was naturally Bai Qinxiang. In just a few minutes, Wang Feng was getting closer and closer to them. The 9 of them started to collapse one after another. Their minds and bodies couldn't take it anymore. Bai Qinxiang, Shen Lingqi, Oscar, Ning Rongrong, Ma Hongjun, Dai Mubai, Xiao Wu, Zhu Zhuqing, Tang San. When Wang Feng reached the 50th step, the 9 of them, except for Tang San, Dai Mubai, Xiao Wu, and Zhu Zhuqing, collapsed one after another. The pressure of the light of the sea god far exceeded this level. It was simply unreasonable. However, the other party controlled it very cleverly. It was as if he wanted to use this method to destroy their minds and bodies. He didn't want to kill them directly. Tang San's face was red as he looked at the back of the figure. He groaned, and the 8-spider spear had already extended from his back. The pressure only disappeared when the other party reached the 100th step. It was also at this moment that Tang San collapsed. He felt the world spinning and his mind was dizzy. It was as if he couldn't feel the light of the sea god on the 50th step at all. End of chapter. Chapter 749. At some point, Tang San even felt that his willpower was about to be destroyed. He looked at the others on the steps below and saw that they were all covered in sweat and panting heavily as they collapsed on the step. They remained motionless as they panted and recovered. By noon, half of the day had passed. Tang San had barely recovered some of his soul power and spirit. When the other party was on the 50th step, especially when he passed by him, the terrifying pressure was definitely more terrifying than the 110th step. However, on the steps, if he could not withstand it, he would be bounced off by the light of the sea god. "How are you guys feeling?" Tang San managed to recover a little and asked. The other 8 people struggled to sit up, but none of them could answer. After a while, Dai Mubai said with a pale face, "He's not trying to kill us. He doesn't want to kill us. He wants to use this method to break our spirit and will. He wants us to be unable to withstand it and retreat down the mountain, failing the test." Dai Mubai understood, and so did the others. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to control it so well. If he wanted to kill us, it would be as easy as flipping his hand. However, this is the Sea God Mountain. He doesn't dare to offend the authority of the Sea God Mountain and attack us. That's why he's using this method, to make us fail the test. At this point, Dai Mubai's face was ashen. "I might not even be able to break through the first step today. I'll need at least half a day to recover." Everyone fell silent. Obviously, the situation was the same. "Despicable," Ning Rongrong said angrily. "He wants to use this method to make it difficult for us to advance. When we recover today, he'll definitely come again tomorrow. When that time comes, we can only watch as time passes, and we'll have to suffer this kind of destruction. This is too much." He's obviously trying to interfere with our test. No, we have to report this to Senior Possessee. But as soon as Ning Rongrong stood up, her whole body went limp and weak. She fell down and couldn't even stand steadily. Behind them, Shen Lingqi and Bai Qinxiang couldn't even speak. I'm afraid it's useless. Ma Hongjun shook his head and said, as long as he says that he had no choice but to release his domain in order to reduce the pressure of the sea god's light, he won't be able to control it. What can you do? After all, when we were waiting for the stairs, we also released all kinds of buffs. Third brother also released his domain. Bulsh *t. With his strength, does he need to use his domain to resist the light of the sea god at such a low level? Ning Rongrong wanted to refute, but she was powerless. Actually, the assessment didn't say that we can't interfere, Oscar said in a low voice. As long as he doesn't kill us, he won't break the rules of the Sea God's Island. The Pope must have sent him here with bad intentions. It seems like he's here to disturb us. At this time, the two purple-clothed Sea Soul Masters who had brought them food arrived. What's going on? The two of them asked in surprise. It's already noon, why haven't they moved? They were still paralyzed on the spot. The few of them explained the situation just now. The two of you, could you please report to Senior Possessee? This Wang Wu is deliberately interfering with us, Dai Mubai hurriedly said. However, the two purple-clothed Sea Soul Masters were silent. Seeing this, the 9 of them understood that this wasn't forbidden. Moreover, Senior Possessee was definitely aware of the situation here. When Zhu Zhuqing reached rank 70, Senior Possessee appeared directly. This meant that Senior Possessee had been paying attention to them. Since Senior Possessee didn't appear, it meant that it was tacitly agreed. The 9 of them immediately thought of this point and couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts. After the two purple-clothed Sea Soul Masters left, the 9 of them were silent again. Depressed expressions appeared on their faces. If this continued, let's not talk about whether they could hold on or not. Even if they could hold on, they didn't have much time to break through every day. They would be stuck in the same place without an inch of progress. At this time, despair began to spread in their hearts. However, at this time, Tang San slowly opened his mouth. Everyone, we don't have to be so desperate. I don't know if you've heard of this saying before. The thing that can make us stronger quickly is our enemy. As long as the enemy can't hit us, it will make us stronger. As soon as he said this, everyone was stunned. Wang Wu wants to destroy our spirit, will, and body. He wants to interfere with our assessment so that we can't make any progress in the future. However, he will never kill us. As long as we can hold on, we will become stronger. Tang San's words made the other 8 people's eyes light up. Because of the Sea God's Island, he can only use this method to interfere with us. However, it's a double-edged sword. Tang San's eyes flashed with the light of wisdom. The pressure he emits is stronger than the light of the sea god. It will make us lose the ability to fight in a very short period of time. It will make our spirit and body suffer great pressure. However, he will never kill us, so he controls it very well. Because once we die, Possessee will definitely make a move on him. Under such circumstances, we need a lot of time to recover, so we won't have time to climb the stairs. However, after we recover, we will definitely be greatly improved. The premise is that we must hold on. As long as he doesn't destroy us, even if we don't climb the stairs, our improvement will be even greater. When Tang San and the others had fallen into despair, they saw the light from another angle. Yes. Ma Hongjun sat on the ground and hammered the ground with his hand. I can't feel anything from the light of the sea god on the 50th level now. If we recover now, our improvement will definitely be greater. If that situation happens again at night, it will be even better for us. Everyone's eyes shone brighter. But we will still fail the assessment in the end. Bai Qinxiang asked in a low voice. Not necessarily. Tang San had a confident smile on his face. Wang Wu only used 5 months to complete the first 2 objectives. It won't take him that long to pass through the light of the sea god. In 2 months, or at most 3 months, I'm sure he will pass through the light of the sea god and ascend to the 1001st level. At that time, it will be our chance. If he passes the assessment, he won't be able to stay on the sea god mountain anymore. At that time, we might even be able to ascend to the next level in one go. Let's use an idiom to describe our current situation. Tang San's eyes shone brightly. Building one path in the open while secretly entering another. The more he spoke, the brighter his eyes shone, and the more excited everyone was. Third brother, you're good. Ma Hongjun laughed. 2 months later, when he sees us ascending to the 140th level and completing the assessment, won't he be so angry that he vomited blood? He went for wool and came home shorn, benefiting us for nothing. He even became a whetstone for us for free. Hearing Ma Hongjuan's words, everyone's mood instantly brightened up. In their hearts, they secretly thought that they must persevere. Only Zhu Zhuqing faintly looked at the mountain that had disappeared from her sight. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. Zhuqing, why are you unhappy? Ning Rongrong's face was a little red. I must persevere. After 2 months, I will slap his face. It's impossible for him to destroy us like this. What about you? Impossible, Zhu Zhuqing whispered, slap his face. P.S. There are a few more chapters. This chapter ends. Chapter 750. Wang Feng's method was the opposite of Hu Lai's. The potential and talent of Little Three and the others were ultimately stronger than Hu Lai's. Just those immortal herbs alone had played a huge role. What he used on Hu Laina and the rest was a gentler method. He wanted to stimulate their potential and improve themselves. In addition, there was no other way to solve the problem in the sea, so it was more dangerous. Hence, Wang Feng used a more extreme method on Tang San. He used his domain and soul power to squeeze out their potential and let the 9 of them experience the feeling of surpassing their limit. As Wang Feng had been to the 900th level, he knew how much pressure there was on each level. Naturally, Wang Feng was able to use his original sin's domain and soul power pressure to let the 9 of them quickly sense the level of their test and how powerful the light of the sea god was. Of course, he couldn't do it in one go. They couldn't take it at all. However, this method of squeezing out their potential allowed them to grow faster. Within 2 months, they could experience the feeling of surpassing their limit. Coupled with the energy flow from their cultivation at night, the 9 of them had enough time to replenish their energy and recover to their peak condition the next day. They would be squeezed the next day, forming a cycle. The only disadvantage of this method was that the 9 of them might not be able to take it. This was because it was too painful and unbearable. However, it was impossible to surpass their limits in a short period of time without paying a price. Wang Feng had suffered a lot in order to train his body to surpass his limit. Even when Hu Laina and the rest were in the sea, Wang Feng used such a gentle method to help them surpass their limits bit by bit. However, they still suffered a lot. If Tang San and the rest couldn't take it, Wang Feng could only say that he was dead. Thinking about it carefully, Wang Feng felt that his journey seemed smooth, but he had also suffered a lot. Not to mention other things, when he absorbed his first soul ring, his body almost exploded. In the end, he managed to pull through. Not many people could do that. However, Wang Feng dared to do that because he knew he had the meteoric tear. Without the meteoric tear, Wang Feng felt that he wouldn't be able to persevere. Furthermore, this can be seen as obstructing the 7 of them. As he thought about this, Wang Fengxin couldn't help but laugh. This was a perfect solution to the problem of his identity being exposed. On the second day, Wang Feng went down to the lowest level again. After that, he unleashed his original sin's domain and soul power suppression. He was like a big bad wolf as he slowly climbed up towards the 9 people. At this time, Tang San and the others had just recovered from their cultivation. It was a frenzied destruction. The 9 of them had just recovered and had yet to experience the exhilaration of becoming stronger. Under the impact of these 2 forces, they were paralyzed for a long time before they could barely stand up. After that, he cursed as he recovered his soul force, but he still gritted his teeth and persevered. But this was only the beginning. It was impossible for them to get used to this kind of destruction because they were rapidly becoming stronger every day. The pressure Wang Feng exerted on him was getting heavier and heavier every day. Moreover, it would take longer and longer. Wang Feng only needed to control the time and slowly let them be attacked by the domain and soul power, making it even more painful. And on the 5th day, Hulaina and the other 2 had already floated up from the bottom of the sea, officially passing the first test. The appearance of these 3 people obviously surprised Tang San and the others, because it was too fast. Although the content of Hulaina and the other 2's test wasn't complicated, it wasn't simple for them. It had only been 5 months and they had already completed it? Logically speaking, when Hulaina and the other 2 just floated up, the 9 of them couldn't believe it at all. The content of the first test had completely stopped, and they hadn't even completed half of it. The 3 people from the Martial Spirit Palace had already passed? Under such circumstances, Tang Sanjiu and the others could only grit their teeth and persevere under Wang Feng's ravaging. Obviously, Hulaina and the other 2 passed the test half of the time, which also brought pressure to the 9 of them. These 9 people, it seems that they haven't even completed half of it? After Hulaina and the other 2 returned to the sea, they looked at each other. In the past 5 months, their soul force level had increased by more than 6 levels on average, and Hulaina directly increased by 7 levels. It could be said that the progress was very great. Obviously, it was impossible to be so exaggerated under normal circumstances. But now, seeing that their former opponents, Shrek's 7 monsters, were actually behind them, this sense of accomplishment was unparalleled. "Teacher is too strong," Evil Moon said with some excitement. "Now we have surpassed them again. Within 5 years, we were overtaken by them. I didn't expect that we still have a chance to surpass them." Yen also nodded. Shrek's 7 monsters were indeed talented, but he shook his head and said, "Unfortunately, that 911, that is, Wang Feng, didn't come with us. It's really strange." "This is a good thing." Hulaina sneered and said, "That guy is so strong and has repeatedly caused trouble. Now he's not here. Sir Popediff can stop Tang San and the others from taking the test." After 5 months of sinking, without the bathing of the sun, Hulaina and the other 2's skin had become a little whiter. Especially Hulaina, she looked more beautiful and charming. Especially the confidence brought by the improvement of her soul force, which made her now charming by 3 points. But how did Teacher stop Shrek's 7 monsters? Evil Moon asked curiously. "It's been more than 5 months. Why are they still on the 50th floor?" It was just early in the morning, and the sun had just risen from the west. At this time, the 3 of them saw Popediff Wang Wu land from the top of the mountain. Then, he released the original Sin domain and soul force pressure and walked directly toward Tang San and the others. In less than half an hour, they were all paralyzed on the spot. Seeing this, the 3 of them suddenly understood. "Teacher is amazing." Yan's eyes lit up. He actually used this method to destroy them and make them unable to persevere. He can also make them unable to break through the stairs of Sea God's light. If this continues, they will either persevere and retreat from Sea God's mountain, or they can't climb the stairs and fail the test. Evil Moon and Hulaina naturally thought of this. For a moment, they admired Popediff's method even more. But this should be very difficult for Teacher, Evil Moon thought. If he accidentally kills them and breaks the rules of Sea God's Island, that high priest possessee will definitely take action against teacher. At that time, it will be dangerous. Believe in teacher. This is very easy for teacher. Yan's eyes flashed with admiration. The three of them naturally knew in their hearts that it was very difficult to stop Tang San and the others from taking the test. Because they couldn't kill them, which was equivalent to breaking the rules of Sea God's Island. But they could interfere with it, but interference was a skill. So it was very difficult. Now that Sir Popediff used this method, it could be said to be killing two birds with one stone. End of this chapter. Chapter 751. Although this method is good, Hulayina looked at Tang San and the others with some hesitation. But it may also help them indirectly. The premise is that they can persist under the double impact of teacher's attack. That should be impossible. It's okay if it's a day or two, but it's a month or two. Yan shook his head and said, I can't hold on. It's more difficult than when we were in the deep sea. You guys, teacher always suppressed them until they reached the 0 point. And teacher's original sin domain is too terrifying. I don't want to experience it at all. It's more terrifying than being in the dark deep sea. It was true. Anyway, teacher's method and means are the best. Hulayina also shook her head. If Tang San and the others can really persist, I can only say that their talent and wisdom are really extraordinary. The three of them didn't believe it. After only 2 days of observation, they went to the second test. In contrast, the second test was much easier than they imagined. The second test: kill 10 sea beasts around the Sea God's Island without using soul skills, starting from 10,000 years. This test should take a lot of time, but Wang Feng had no way to help them. The three of them had to rely on their own strength to do this. Wang Feng still destroyed Tang San and the others every day. In addition, Wang Feng slowly climbed the stairs after the 90th floor. In fact, every time he climbed the stairs from the bottom of the mountain, it was a kind of training for him, so he had been storing or compressing his soul power. His body also became stronger, and the more he went up, the more Wang Feng had a hunch that the last floor would be a huge test. Wang Feng didn't know the details, but it was definitely very abnormal. 2 months later, under Wang Feng's pressure, except for Xiao Wu, Shrek's 7 monsters all broke through to rank 70 and obtained a God-given soul ring. And it had only been less than 7 months since then. The one who improved the most was Bai Qinxiang, because her level was extremely low. Under this kind of pressure, as long as she persevered, her improvement was very terrifying. This was also the reason why Tang San and the others had completely recognized Bai Qinxiang. She was able to persevere under this kind of torture. As men, they naturally couldn't fall behind, especially Ma Hongjun. He gritted his teeth every day and persevered. What terrified the 9 of them the most was that no matter how strong they became, Wang Wu was still able to rely on his domain and soul power to squeeze them to the point that they were paralyzed on the stairs, unable to recover even after a long time. Fortunately, there was an energy storm at night, which allowed them to quickly absorb and recover their strength. Otherwise, it would be impossible for them to fully recover by the next day. Just like that, for 2 months the 9 of them did not break through a single step. Tang San was still on the 110th floor. The others didn't change at all. Although the steps remained the same, everyone was waiting for an opportunity in their hearts. This was because they could feel that they had become incomparably powerful. As long as that white-clothed Popediff did not appear tomorrow, they were even confident that they could rush to the 140th floor in one go and directly complete the test. It could be said that for the past 2 months, these 9 people had lived every day in pain and happiness, but they gritted their teeth and persevered. 2 months later, Wang Feng finally arrived at the 999th level, the 999th floor. Wang Feng stood on the stairs and looked at the remaining 2 steps. He could even see the white jade-like sea god palace in the distance, pure, beautiful, and dignified. The sea god palace was much more dignified and majestic than the Rakshasa mystical palace that Wang Feng had seen. Wang Feng did not have much confidence in the remaining 2 floors. The pressure brought by the light of sea god on the 999th floor was not inferior to that of the 5,500 meters deep sea. Midway, Wang Feng secretly used various forms of enhancement on himself. Other than the Dark Angel Martial Soul, he was already in full condition. The Dark Angel Martial Soul was too evil. Once it was released, the possessee would immediately sense it. After all, this was not the 5,500 meters deep sea. But Wang Feng still did not have the confidence to step onto the 1,000th floor. After thinking for a long time, Wang Feng turned his palm and directly used the innate 5-element flags. His domain suddenly appeared. The vast white world seemed to be the opposite of the black of the original Sin domain. Under the enhancement of the innate 5-element domain, Wang Feng's body was suffused with a layer of faint light and received a great enhancement. Without any hesitation, Wang Feng stepped on the 1,000th step. In an instant, the entire sea god mountain seemed to tremble. Endless light of sea god crazily squeezed toward Wang Feng. Wang Feng groaned. Layers of fine cracks began to appear on his body and dense blood seeped out. The 1,000th floor was a qualitative change. Although Wang Feng was invincible in the innate 5-element domain, this invincibility was immunity to damage. And it was impossible to be immune to this boundless pressure. But with the enhancement of the Golden Lotus and the innate 5-element domain, his recovery ability was greatly enhanced. His body began to recover rapidly. The soul power in his body was like the sea that had countless holes opened and crazily flowed out. At the same time, his mental power also suffered a huge impact. On the 1,000th floor, the pressure of the light of sea god seeped into his body and brought a great impact to his soul. Sure enough, the 1,000th floor is a qualitative change. I wonder how terrifying the last floor is? Wang Feng could not imagine. Under this impact, he only lasted for about 10 seconds before he was directly sent flying by the light of sea god. His soul power was exhausted and his mental power was close to exhaustion. But in the end, he still made it to the 1,000th floor. Wang Feng was a little doubtful. Would the 1,000th floor bear the complete light of sea god? The light of sea god was the power given by the sea god. Tang San and the others only bore a small part of it. It could be seen from the increase of 10% with each step. The light of sea god gradually became stronger with each step. Therefore, Tang San and the others only bore a small part of the light of sea god. On the last floor, they had to bear the complete light of sea god. Even if the light of sea god was just a power casually set up by the sea god, it was still a part of the sea god's power. Could humans bear the power of the sea god? In the first 900 floors, Wang Feng felt that passing through the light of sea god was easier than passing the previous 2 floors. It was not until these 2 months when he gradually reached the last 2 floors that Wang Feng realized the horror of the light of sea god. What the hell is the sea god doing? Why did he give me such a difficult test? Wang Fengxin could not help but curse in his heart. Could it be that you think so highly of me? But what's the use? I won't inherit your godhood. What's your purpose in torturing me? Wang Feng was speechless. After falling from the 1,000th floor, Wang Feng knew that it was impossible for him to reach the last floor no matter what. The 1,000th floor had already emptied him. If he reached the 1,000th floor, GG. End of chapter. Chapter 752. At this moment, Tang San and the others, who were recovering on the steps at the foot of the mountain, saw Wang Feng fall from the sea god mountain. Brothers! That Wang Wu can't make it! Charge! Ma Hongjun suddenly jumped up and roared. He didn't do much damage to us today. I knew he would definitely want to break through to the highest level. Now, he has failed. It was really late at night. Although the 9 of them had gone through a lot during the day, Wang Feng didn't destroy them like usual because he wanted to break through to the highest level today. Therefore, they had recovered quite a bit. At the same time, they were waiting quietly because today's situation was obvious. After 2 months, this Wang Wu was definitely going to break through to the highest level. That was why they were merciful. They had been waiting for Wang Wu to break through to the highest level. Although they couldn't see it, whether it was success or failure, it was their best opportunity. When the sea god mountain trembled just now, it seemed to be a sign. Now, at this moment, it was finally here. The emotions that the 9 of them had been holding back for 2 months completely erupted at this moment. Powerful auras suddenly erupted from the 9 of them. They were almost flying. The 9 of them had stopped at the steps for 2 months and rushed up crazily. That kind of carefree feeling invaded everyone's brain. Every cell in their body seemed to be jumping. The leader was Tang San. His eyes flickered. The soul bone domain was useless. He directly broke through to the 110th level in one breath, but as if he didn't feel anything, he rushed up again. It was too easy. It was too easy. Compared to Wang Wu's original sin domain and soul power pressure, the light of the sea god on these steps didn't have any pressure at all. Tang San shouted in his heart. Sure enough, these 2 months of perseverance were worth it. In one breath, Tang San rushed up to the 300th level. After the 300th level, Tang San released the soul bone and obtained the powerful 100,000-year blue-silver true body. He released his domain again and directly broke through to the 340th level. Although the last 10 levels also gave Tang San a lot of pressure, it still couldn't compare to Wang Wu's suppression that made people at the point of life and death. But when Tang San rushed to the destination of the assessment, the 350th level, a voice clearly sounded in his mind. It indicated that he had passed the first test. However, what Tang San felt ridiculous was that he felt as if he could still go up a few steps. At the same time, Tang San looked at the bottom of the stairs. Zhu Zhuqing was the fastest to reach the 160th step, successfully completing the test. In fact, he kept going up until he reached the 300th floor. It had far exceeded her original goal of taking the test, 160 floors. It wasn't far from him. As a support type, Ning Rongrong had also reached the 160th floor because she was also a 7th-tier player. However, it wasn't easy for her to reach the 160th floor. In terms of physical strength, Ning Rongrong was far inferior to Zhu Zhuqing. As for the others, Dai Mubai and Ma Hongjun, they had also reached the 140th floor. The food-type Oscar was much weaker, but he still slowly reached the 140th level. Behind him, Shen Lingqi directly broke through the 100th level. She even walked 10 more levels. Her soul power rank had already broken through rank 60 and reached rank 67. She had the second biggest increase in soul power. In these 7 months, the one who improved the most was naturally Bai Qinxiang. Because her soul power rank was the lowest, she directly reached the 80th floor and her soul power rank reached rank 61. For her 5th soul ring, she chose a flying-type aquatic soul beast. For her 6th soul ring, Bai Qinxiang chose a God-given soul ring that allowed her to improve her strength the most. The reason why she was able to improve so much was because her soul power rank was too low. In less than half an hour, all 9 of them reached the corresponding positions and passed the first test. This situation made everyone a little dazed. It was probably the feeling of 10 years of hard work on the stage for 10 minutes. The huge success that had been ravaged for the past 2 months had been completely unleashed in less than an hour. Everyone quietly looked at the moon in the sky. It was a little unbelievable. The 1-year time limit was reached in 7 months, and everyone's improvement was incomparably huge. Tang San went from rank 68 to rank 78. Dai Mubai reached rank 75, Zhu Zhuqing reached rank 77, Ma Hongjun and Oscar both reached rank 73, and Ning Rongrong reached rank 73. Everyone had increased by almost 10 ranks. There were around 8 ranks that had been raised in the last 2 months. It's too terrifying. Are these really our results in 2 months? Ma Hongjun muttered, as if he had not regained his senses. It was as if he was still in the midst of being ravaged for 2 months. If I could do it again, I definitely wouldn't choose to be ravaged by that Pope Diff. Oscar shook his head with lingering fear. Not to mention 2 months, I don't want to be ravaged for even a day. That domain is too terrifying. There were 7 different emotions in the original Sin's domain. They would attack the people within the domain, and their minds would naturally suffer immense pain. It was an extremely terrifying test for one's willpower. Everyone nodded in agreement. If they could choose again, they would rather give up this rank 7 than be ravaged like that. Where's Wang Wu? Did he fall into the sea? Ma Hongjun placed his hands on his waist, looking high-spirited. He seems to have failed to reach the highest level, right? Ha 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 ha. Logically speaking, I still want to thank him. Ha 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 ha. The other 9 laughed. However, looking at the situation just now, it seemed like he did fall from the mountain into the sea. At this moment, Zhu Zhuqing suddenly rushed up a few more levels until she was about to reach the 333rd level. Bang! Zhu Zhuqing was suddenly repelled by the light of Poseidon. Seeing this, the 8 of them were stunned. Yu Qing seems to be planning to try again. Tang San smiled and shook his head. I also feel that she seems to be able to go up a dozen more levels. 330th level. She's very powerful. Zhu Zhuqing fell into the sea from the 333rd level. However, no one was worried. Only Ning Rongrong frowned slightly. A light flashed in her eyes. She curled her lips and did not say anything. As for Zhu Zhuqing, who had fallen into the sea, she immediately started swimming, searching for the figure that had fallen from the sea. After a short while, Zhu Zhuqing found the figure she was looking for. At this moment, Wang Feng was on the shore, using his soul power to evaporate the seawater on his body. When he fell just now, he did not have much soul power left. It seems like it's time to absorb the God-bestowed soul ring. Otherwise, it's impossible to reach the last level. Wang Feng dried the seawater on his body and thought. Tang San and the others should have passed the test by now. At this moment, Wang Feng's eyes suddenly widened. He saw a beautiful figure rushing towards him. Why did she come down? P.S. Cough cough, it's a little late. Please count the tickets, then good night. End of chapter. Chapter 753. Wang Feng didn't expect Zhu Zhuqing to come down at this time. Zhu Zhuqing's speed was very fast. Even though she couldn't withstand the light of the sea god, and expended her soul force when she reached the 330th level, her speed was still extremely fast due to the improvements her body had received over the past 5 months. And when Zhu Zhuqing, like a night elf, flashed past a black shadow and threw herself into Wang Feng's arms, Wang Feng was stunned. Wang Feng felt Zhu Zhuqing's body was strong and big. Wang Feng felt a little stuffy in his chest and took a step back. Before Wang Feng could react, the mask on his face was removed. Immediately after, a slightly cold and soft feeling was transmitted from his face to his brain. Wang Feng quickly held Zhu Zhuqing's shoulders with both hands. What are you doing? I haven't even admitted it and you're already here? They can't see. Zhu Zhuqing's soft voice sounded in his ear. Her warm breath tickled Wang Feng. Wang Feng, you don't need to hide. I know your identity. My heart won't lie to me. Otherwise, you would have pushed me away. Wang Feng was silent. His heart was even glowing faintly. This was the effect of the meteoric tear. Indeed, Wang Feng felt that the meteoric tear also had a special feeling. It was a feeling of being connected to the heart. Why did you come down? Wang Feng pushed Zhu Zhuqing's body away slightly. However, he felt that she was hugging him a little too tightly. He didn't push her away and let her hug him. From the surface, the two of them were pressed together and were a little squashed. I missed you. Zhu Zhuqing looked up. Her face was red and her eyes were a little blurred. These 2 months, every time you walked past me, I felt like you were talking to me, but I was afraid that you would be recognized if I opened my mouth. Wang Fengxian thought that the meteoric tear had such an effect. No matter how good his disguise was, it was useless. How long are you going to pretend? Zhu Zhuqing stared at the face that she had been thinking about day and night. Her face became redder and redder. It must be a big burden for you to pretend like this, right? Did you fail to break through the last level just now? Wang Feng shook his head. He didn't even attempt to break through to the final level today. He only failed at the 1000th level. Did you do that on purpose? Zhu Zhuqing buried her head in Wang Feng's chest. She held Wang Feng's chin and listened to his heartbeat. It was the same heartbeat as her own. It was a sense of harmony, as if they were one. It made Zhu Zhuqing tremble all over. They've all misunderstood you. They all want to slap your face. Are you angry? Zhu Zhuqing whispered. What are you angry about? Wang Feng thought for a moment. That's exactly what I want you to think. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to hold on for 2 months. Zhu Zhuqing. Then when are you going to stop pretending? Zhu Zhuqing suddenly raised her head and looked at Wang Feng. And the way the Holy Virgin of the Martial Spirit Palace looked at you. At this point, Zhu Zhuqing hugged him even tighter. Every time I see the Holy Virgin looking at you, I want to kick her away. Zhu Zhuqing's voice was sour. Wang Feng, you've become the White Popetiff in the Martial Spirit Palace. Are you really going to leave us? But after saying that, Zhu Zhuqing probably felt that her question was a bit stupid, so she muttered, You can't do that. Wang Feng smiled and looked at Zhu Zhuqing's angry face. He wanted to say that even if he didn't stay in the Martial Spirit Palace, he would leave one day. But it was too sad to say that. So he just let it go. And the young master of the Martial Spirit Palace, Qian Rinxue. I heard from third brother that she's also a great beauty. Zhu Zhuqing said faintly. You even fought with third brother and senior poison Douluo to cover her retreat in Heaven Do City. Did you do that because of her? Wang Feng coughed. Why are we talking about that? But that matter was too complicated. He couldn't explain it to Zhu Zhuqing. You disguised yourself as the White Popetiff in the Martial Spirit Palace. Is it because of those 2 girls? Zhu Zhuqing whispered. I know I'm a little narrow-minded, but I can't help but think so. Absolutely not, Wang Feng said. Then why? Why did you enter the Martial Spirit Palace? Why did you become the White Popetiff? Why did you stay with those 2 girls? Zhu Zhuqing felt that she had a lot of questions, but she suddenly leaned into Wang Feng's arms. Ugh, I won't ask. I know you won't tell me now. Wang Feng didn't say that he wouldn't tell Zhu Zhuqing. In fact, it wouldn't make much sense to tell her. Bibidon would become a god, and he would come to see God's Island in 3 years. I'll tell you too in 2 years. Wang Feng's eyes flickered. Right now, he didn't know the situation on the continent. The Martial Spirit Alliance should have been established. How were the 2 empires and the 3 great sects? He knew nothing. He could only become stronger in 2 years to prevent any accidents from happening. You said, Zhu Zhuqing raised her head and looked at Wang Feng. Then 2 years later, can you make a choice? Between me and Rongrong, who will you choose? Or do you want to choose the Holy Maiden of the Martial Spirit Palace and the Qianrenxue? Wang Feng was speechless. Why did she ask this question again? And why did she have to add 2 more girls? Wang Feng, my mind is in a mess. Because everything you've done is too scary, Zhu Zhuqing murmured. I don't know what you want to do. But one thing won't change. I like you. Yes, it's too scary. Even if the other party didn't admit his identity, Zhu Zhuqing thought about it carefully. In the past year, the other party became the White Popediff and directed a series of events. It was very scary. What did Wang Feng do in the Martial Spirit Palace? How did he reach such a high position? How did he get an important position? Even if one day you really become a super bad guy. Zhu Zhuqing stared at Wang Feng and whispered, I like you too, and it's not just like. Zhu Zhuqing silently said in her heart. Yes, I like you too. Wang Feng thought for a while and said, Really? Zhu Zhuqing was stunned. Her face became redder and redder. Her face was filled with surprise. Her eyes were overflowing with affection. This was the first time she heard such a positive answer from Wang Feng. But then, Zhu Zhuqing asked again. What about Rongrong? I like her too. Wang Feng said. Zhu Zhuqing was stunned. Her mind went blank. After a while, You. Zhu Zhuqing stammered. How can you? I don't like either of them. Wang Feng thought for a while. No. Zhu Zhuqing stamped her foot and said angrily, Wang Feng, you can't be fickle. You can only choose one. No one wanted to share their beloved with others. She naturally didn't want to. End of chapter. Chapter 754. But I'm a fickle person. Wang Feng pondered for a moment and said, I can't give up either of you. If I really have to choose, one of you will be very sad. Then I might as well tell you the truth. I won't choose. This way, everyone can be sad together, and we can also be companions. Besides, Wang Feng wasn't sure if he would leave this world. 5 years ago, Wang Feng didn't know the extent of Zhu Zhuqing's feelings for him. Zhu Zhuqing had been silent. It was only when she couldn't hold it in the Pope's palace that Wang Feng suddenly woke up. Their feelings were so deep? I didn't really flirt with her. Sigh, is it because I'm too handsome? When they met for the first time, Zhu Zhuqing discovered me with the help of the meteoric tear. Although he had been trying to fool her, Wang Feng didn't have much experience and didn't have any love in his previous life. In the end, he found that he couldn't fool her at all. Not only love, Wang Feng could talk about others, but when it came to himself, Wang Feng felt that he had always been a person who followed his heart. Seeing that he always chose a banana skin, he might as well tell her the truth. Zhu Zhuqing looked at Wang Feng in a daze and did not say anything. Her heart was filled with panic. However, she seemed to have thought of something and suddenly said, But you said that you would choose whoever is older. I am older than Rongrong. After saying this, a blush spread from Zhu Zhuqing's snow-white neck to her whole body. No, you are the same age. Wang Feng shook his head and said, Rongrong's is not small. Speaking of this, Wang Feng paused. Zhu Zhuqing stared at Wang Feng. How do you know? Her eyes were faint. Did you and she already, and you said you touched it? When you and Rongrong went back to the 7-treasure glazed tile sect that day, did you already? Zhu Zhuqing's voice became softer and softer, and her eyes were misty. Wang Feng, of course he didn't touch it. Wang Feng shook his head and said, You're thinking too much. She hugged me before, I can feel it. It's just that her clothes don't stand out. Forget it, let's not talk about it anymore. They're here. As she spoke, she tried to push Zhu Zhuqing away. Zhuqing, I'm a playboy. Wang Feng thought about it and said, If you force me to choose, I won't be able to choose. So, don't say it. Zhu Zhuqing turned around and said stubbornly, I will be older than Rongrong. Wang Feng, hey, don't be so stubborn about this. That wasn't the point. Even if you are older than Rongrong, it is impossible for me to choose you. Wang Feng was a little speechless. It was either all or none at all. Only children would make choices. Wang Feng had never wanted to make a choice. At this time, Tang San and his men also came up from the foot of the mountain. They all looked like generals who had won a battle. Of course, they soon saw Wang Feng standing on the shore. At this time, Zhu Zhuqing turned around and said lightly, What a pity, Wang Wu. Your plan has completely failed. Are you angry? After saying that, Zhu Zhuqing winked. She was also a little drama queen. Wang Feng glared at her and put on the mask. Just now, she had secretly kissed him, and now she turned around and began to act. These girls were really born with a talent for acting. Maybe it was because his words just now made Zhu Zhuqing feel a little uncomfortable, so now her performance was as smooth as silk. Soon, Tang San and the others came over. Senior, you have a noble character and unquestionable integrity. Although you are our enemy, you have helped us and allowed us to complete the assessment in advance. Tang San looked at the white-clothed Popetiff with a sincere expression. Here, on behalf of us, I thank you for your help. Tang San was serious. He was really grateful to the white-clothed Popetiff. Even from the enemy's point of view, Tang San was also very grateful to him. This was not sarcasm, but a slap in the face. It was a sincere gratitude. Tang San felt that he was not a narrow-minded person. From the other party's point of view, as the white-clothed Popetiff, he should have stopped him. There was no doubt that their positions were different. But Tang San still admired the white-clothed Popetiff in his heart. Even if the other party was a pawn of the martial spirit palace. Xiao San, he wanted to kill us. Why are you thanking him? Dai Mubai and the others were not like Tang San. They all laughed. That's right, Ning Rongrong walked to Zhu Zhuqing and curled her lips. Wang Wu, are you angry? We were not defeated by you. Instead, we became stronger. If your Pope knows, she will suspect that you are deliberately helping us, right? Is it a slap in the face? Ning Rongrong giggled. Wang Feng's heart trembled slightly as he glanced at Ning Rongrong. This silly girl. He didn't expect that his casual remark would actually hit the nail on the head. Wang Feng was silent for a while. He said slowly, "It's your own ability to survive. Why should I be angry? It's my mission to stop you, but it's not under my control. You want to slap me in the face and make me angry with your childish behavior? Don't you know if you are qualified?" Then, Wang Feng snorted lightly. A boundless aura suddenly spread out. Everyone was stunned at first. Then, their expressions changed. They felt an even more powerful force pressing down on them. Seeing this, they all lowered their heads in shame. The 9 of you together can only be trampled by me. Wang Feng's voice was flat as if there was no emotion. Who gave you the confidence to slap me in the face? If you have the time, you might as well cultivate. Otherwise, you will be buried in the sea when you leave Sea God's Island. As soon as he said that, the 9 people groaned and took a few steps back. Their faces were pale. Wang Feng looked at the 9 people and shook his head. He did not speak any more and continued to walk forward. Seeing this, the 9 people looked at each other and did not say a word. The surprise of passing the test instantly cooled down. Yes. What strength do I have? What strength does he have? For this Popetiff King Fifth, using his domain and soul power to crush them every day was just a casual thing. It was not enough to reach the apex. Perhaps the other party did not even use any strength. What qualifications do we have to slap him in the face? Thinking of this, except for Tang San and Zhu Zhuqing, the rest lowered their heads in shame. Tang San smiled. At first, this was just a method he used to motivate the 7 people. It was indeed a little childish. In addition, after 2 months of torture, a lot of negative emotions were suppressed in their hearts. Therefore, they lost the ability to judge Popetiff King Fifth. After passing the test and obtaining a huge increase in strength, a lot of their negative emotions dissipated. They were also much more clear-headed. I feel that we were a little stupid before. Ma Hongjun shook his head with a wry smile. Third brother, you did a good job. You can calm down and sincerely thank the other party. Think about what kind of person this King Fifth is. How could he be angered by us? This is just the pressure that he casually exerted. Even if he defeated Senior Sword Douluo and caused Senior Sword Douluo's strength to increase, he still didn't let him go. He left peacefully without the slightest ripple. What's the big deal about our small fights? Everyone nodded in agreement. After this incident, everyone seemed to be in a better mood. End of this chapter. Chapter 755. We were too arrogant. Dai Mubai sighed and suddenly said, "When he was patrolling the world, I saw this Popediff. Later, I heard from the people of Martial Spirit Palace that this person's cultivation method is very special. He absorbs all kinds of emotions to cultivate. His martial spirit is very magical. Now that I think about it, we thought he was trying to destroy us, but in fact we were already used by him." Hearing this, everyone was stunned. Even Tang San was stunned. Think about it. Every time we saw this Popediff Wang Wu, how strong were our emotions towards him? Tang San's pupils shrank as if he understood something. He whispered, "The stronger our emotions, the more it will help him." Everyone was shocked once again, and cold sweat immediately appeared on their backs. Yes, in the past 2 months, let alone seeing this Popediff Wang Wu, even if they didn't see him, the anger, fear, and many other emotions in their hearts had been lingering in their minds. Thinking about it this way, damn, isn't that too scary? Ma Hongjun quivered. So, he has been using us all this time? The more we want to slap his face, the stronger the emotions in our hearts. For him, isn't this the nourishment for his strength improvement? And it's the 9 of us. The more they thought about it, the more their scalps tingled. They thought that by enduring for 2 months, they could slap his face and make him angry. But they didn't expect that they had already been used by him. Tang San also broke out in cold sweat. He didn't think of this. To be precise, the destruction in the past 2 months had made them unconsciously produce a lot of negative emotions. It was impossible for them to think of this at all. They only thought that the other party wanted to destroy them and stop them from taking the test. In fact, it was just killing 2 birds with 1 stone. They were so proud. "This Wang Wu is really terrifying," Tang San whispered. Everyone nodded in agreement. They didn't have those thoughts in their hearts anymore. "In the future, when we see this white-clothed Popediff, we must be calm. Otherwise we will be helping him." Ning Rongrong calmed down and said calmly, "We must not be angry." "That's right." The rest of the people agreed. Zhu Zhuqing, she suddenly didn't know what to say. At this moment, a figure suddenly flew down from the top of the mountain. Zhu Zhuqing said, "Possessi, Senior." Seeing this, everyone hurriedly looked over and saw Possessi land beside Wang Wu. "Wang Wu, looking at the situation, you should be planning to absorb the God-bestowed soul ring now?" Possessi still had a gentle smile on his face. It was as if he knew nothing about what had happened in the past 2 months. Wang Fengxin thought to himself, "This Possessi really knows the situation of the Sea God Mountain like the back of his hand." "That's right." Wang Feng nodded. "I do plan to absorb a God-bestowed soul ring." Hearing this, Possessi smiled without saying anything. He opened his hand and the golden pearl appeared before Wang Feng's eyes again. "Go up to the 800th level. I'll absorb it directly." Wang Feng's eyes flashed. When he came up from the sea just now, he had already used the soul power stored in the Black Lotus to replenish it. In just 10 minutes, he went up to the 800th level. Wang Feng planned to absorb this God-bestowed soul ring under this terrifying pressure. In fact, a 100,000-year soul ring formed by a God-bestowed soul ring was much easier to absorb than a 100,000-year soul ring formed after the death of a normal soul beast. It was true. Because the God-bestowed soul ring did not have the remnant consciousness of those soul beasts, there would be no danger. As long as one's body was strong enough, they could smoothly absorb it. Zhu Zhuqing improved so quickly on the stairs of the Sea God's Light because of the pressure given by the Sea God's Light. It could stimulate the meteoric tear in her heart time and time again, allowing her to improve rapidly in the first month. This was also the reason why she could catch up with Tang San. In fact, to put it bluntly, a piece of meteoric tear was more powerful than the 4 soul bones in Tang San's body. In addition, Zhu Zhuqing had been subtly changed by the meteoric tear in the past 5 years, so her body was very strong. This led to Zhu Zhuqing being able to absorb the 100,000-year soul ring. With the help of the meteoric tear in the end, it was impossible for her to fail. Although it was much weaker compared to Wang Feng's 5th soul ring, which was nearly 100,000 years. After all, in addition to the meteoric tear, Wang Feng also had the green lotus martial soul that provided great help. After these 2 months of training, the soul power stored in Wang Feng's body, coupled with the effect of the soul ring, made Wang Feng confident that he could directly rise to around rank 75. Moreover, the age of the soul ring should be greatly increased. In the past 2 months, the power of the blood traces had also improved. It was blood-red before, but after absorbing the power of the Rakshasa god and the power of the sea god, it was blood-gold. With 7 blood traces activated, it was at least 25 times stronger. Tang San and the others were not wrong. While Wang Feng was destroying them, he was also absorbing their emotions through the original Sin domain to strengthen the power of the blood traces. However, for Wang Feng, this was only a slight improvement and not much. The power of the 7 blood traces was now terrifying. If it appeared together with the Dark Angel Martial Soul, there would be a huge increase. Wang Feng was a little doubtful that this Dark Angel Martial Soul could not be attached with a soul ring at all. When the time came, he would have to give it a try to know. After reaching the 800th level, Possessi crushed the golden bead and dropped it on Wang Feng's body. A golden mist spread all over Wang Feng's body. Vaguely, Wang Feng felt a special power. Possessi took a few glances and walked down. No matter how fast the absorption of a god-bestowed soul ring was, it would take a few days to see the result. She was not in a hurry. Anyway, she knew the situation on the Sea God Mountain. Possessi landed beside Tang San and the others at the foot of the mountain and said with a smile, "Congratulations, children. I didn't expect you to complete the task in half the time. Maybe you don't know the importance of the first test, but you will understand in the later tests." Possessi did not talk about what happened in the past 2 months, and Tang San and the others had no intention of snitching anymore. To be able to make such progress, it is all because of your own strength and perseverance. Possessi's gaze slowly swept across the 9 people and finally landed on Tang San. "I think you all already know the content of the second test?" Everyone nodded. When they climbed the stairs, everyone knew the content of the second test. The second test: cross this ring-shaped sea. The 9 people had different test contents and difficulties. For example, Tang San's 9 tests of the sea god could not use soul rings or soul skills on the sea. The others did not have this restriction. As the top 7 tests, Ning Rongrong and Zhu Zhuqing would use soul skills, but the power would be reduced. There would be different degrees of difficulty. But no matter what, this was not a test that could be passed by one person. End of chapter. Chapter 756. This ring-shaped sea had a diameter of 5,000 meters. The distance from the shore to the Sea God Mountain was at least 2,500 meters. Under normal circumstances, 2,500 meters would only take them less than half a minute to cover. However, this was the ring-shaped sea. Who knew how many aquatic spirit beasts were hidden in it? Since you know, Possessi tapped the ground with his scepter and emitted a golden light. Then, a ray of light flashed between the 7 people's eyebrows. Suddenly, the entire ring-shaped sea was covered by dark clouds. Lightning flashed in the sky. A storm was coming. At the same time, the golden light from Possessi's scepter flew out and covered the entire ring-shaped sea. Everyone's face darkened. This golden light was like a fog that covered the entire ring-shaped sea. Everyone knew that it had the effect of prohibiting flying. They couldn't send a letter over. This meant that they could only cross the sea, at this moment, as the sky was covered by dark clouds, the rain poured down. Under the heavy rain, countless ripples appeared on the surface of the sea. Then, many aquatic spirit beasts surged out of the sea and brought along torrential waves. They also emitted a strong aura and seemed to be a little irritable. Everyone's pupils shrank. It seemed to be harder to pass the second test in such an environment. You have a few days to rest and think about how to pass this test. Possessi smiled faintly. This is the hard condition to cross the ring-shaped sea. The content and difficulty were in front of them. At this moment, Ning Rongrong suddenly asked, Senior Possessi, is Wang Wu absorbing the god-bestowed soul ring now? Possessi was taken aback. He didn't hide it and nodded. When will he succeed? Ning Rongrong asked curiously. Possessi shook his head and looked at the sea god mountain in the distance. The top of the mountain was covered by the light of the sea god. It was hazy and she couldn't see what was going on. She didn't know either. Can he reach the 1001st level? Ning Rongrong continued to ask, what's so special about the 1001st level of the sea god's light? Possessi looked at Ning Rongrong. Child, you seem to be very curious about him. However, I cannot tell you what the 1001st level represents. That's because knowing that will not be of any help to you. I'm not sure if he'll be able to reach the 1001st floor. However, until now, no one has been able to pass through the light of the sea god and ascend to the 1001st step. Hearing this, everyone was stunned. Not even you? Tang San asked. Possessi smiled but did not answer. Of course, she couldn't because her assessment back then wasn't so exaggerated. After passing the trial, the light of the sea god no longer posed any resistance to her, so she didn't have any more chances to try it. Then is it very dangerous? Zhu Zhuqing asked. It's very dangerous, Possessi said slowly. If you climb up, you either die or live. Hearing this, Zhu Zhuqing's heart suddenly tightened. As the hazy golden fog engulfed Wang Feng, it slowly turned into a soul ring. White, yellow, purple, and black. 4 colors flashed one after another. The majestic strength slowly increased. Finally, a scarlet color appeared, which represented a 100,000-year soul ring. Wang Feng closed his eyes and felt the changes in this 100,000-year soul ring. The rich energy was stronger than all the soul rings that Wang Feng had absorbed so far. Thinking carefully, it had been almost a year since he absorbed the soul ring of the 5-headed star dragon. He didn't expect to have his 7th soul ring in just over a year. He was still useful on the sea god's island. The red color of the soul ring gradually deepened. Wang Feng could feel it very clearly. As the color deepened, it meant that the soul ring's age was increasing. Wang Feng could feel waves of pressure being emitted from this soul ring. 100,000 years, 200,000 years, soon, several soul bones appeared on Wang Feng's body. The power of the blood patterns was quickly activated, and he withstood the pressure brought about by the increase in the soul ring. His entire body emitted a white jade-like luster. In the pitch-black night sky, he was extremely dazzling. I can't hold on any longer. Wang Feng felt that the soul ring's age was increasing rapidly. When it reached 750,000 years, Wang Feng felt that he couldn't hold on any longer. Every inch of his skin and bones seemed to have reached a point of zero. If it reached a point of zero, it might directly destroy Wang Feng's body. When he first started climbing, Wang Feng estimated that his limit should be more than 500,000 years. Now it had climbed to more than 700,000 years. He had made a lot of progress. 1,000,000 years, is it really possible? In fact, there were no true million-year soul beasts in the current Douluo world. That demon whale was only close to 1,000,000 years old. If it really became 1,000,000 years old, it would probably have become a god and really crossed that threshold. Wang Feng gritted his teeth, and the energy of the meteoric tear slowly flowed out. With his current spiritual power, He could vaguely feel the energy contained in the meteoric tear, and that mysterious ability. He could also accurately control the energy in the meteoric tear. The pure life aura and the power of the 7 blood patterns seemed to be incompatible. Under the effect of the meteoric tear, Wang Feng felt his body recover slightly and continued to bear the increasing pressure of the soul ring. Until 800,000 years old. Even the recovery speed of the meteoric tear couldn't keep up with the pressure of the soul ring on the body. Wang Feng knew that this should be the limit. Not to mention 1,000,000 years, even 900,000 years was impossible, and the color of the soul ring turned into an extremely dark red, slightly dyed with a wisp of golden light, very faint. It was almost impossible to see. Can it still be surpassed? Wang Fengxin shook his head and said, "It should be impossible. It's really impossible for the 7th soul ring to reach 1,000,000 years." 800,000 years, Wang Feng was already at his limit. Even the meteoric tear was flowing with energy. Seeing this, Wang Feng didn't hesitate and directly absorbed this 800,000-year soul ring. The dark red soul ring with a wisp of golden light seemed to be infinitely large. It fell on Wang Feng's body and wrapped him up. It formed a red and golden light shield. The majestic energy swallowed and spat out a breathtaking light on the 800th floor. The energy that far exceeded Wang Feng's imagination rushed out from this God-bestowed soul ring. Almost in an instant, it destroyed Wang Feng's body. Fortunately, this was a God-bestowed soul ring and there were no obstacles to absorption. Under the guidance of Wang Feng's powerful spiritual power, it quickly flowed into the main body of the azure lotus in the sea of consciousness. In the center of the river formed by spiritual power, the chaotic azure lotus emitted a faint light. The energy of the soul ring was like a waterfall, washing Wang Feng's body, breaking and reorganizing, and finally pouring into the azure lotus above the spiritual river. End of this chapter. Chapter 757. In an instant, the light on the chaotic green lotus gradually brightened. The petals, seeds, and leaves of the lotus began to flicker with their own light as they withstood this terrifying torrential power. At the same time, a green light covered the red light formed by the soul ring and formed a green light barrier around Wang Feng. Although it was green, it was a hazy and chaotic color. It looked green from close up, but from afar, it looked like a patch of chaos. Possessie squinted and stood in midair as she looked at Wang Wu. Her senses were blocked. She knew everything on the sea god's mountain like the back of her hand. No one or anything could escape her senses. Right now, Possessie couldn't sense Wang Wu's situation inside the green light barrier. However, Possessie could clearly sense an 800,000-year soul ring. What did 800,000-year soul ring mean? Possessie didn't know, because she didn't have a soul ring of that age. In other words, none of the titled Douluo in this world had such a long soul ring, and no titled Douluo could withstand such a long soul ring, unless they sacrificed it. However, this was a God-bestowed soul ring. Since it was 80-year-old, it meant that Wang Wu could definitely absorb it. What is his martial soul? Poseidon wanted to see through the green mist to see what was inside, but there was nothing he could do. Chaos. It was a patch of chaos. The aura emitted by the chaotic green lotus seemed to block everything. That green and chaotic light made Possessie feel that it was unreachable. It was even more terrifying than when she communicated with the sea god in the sea god's palace. Possessie couldn't understand. Perhaps only the arrival of the sea god would know about Wang Wu's situation. Possessie shook her head helplessly as she thought about how she couldn't even sense what his martial soul was in the sea god's mountain. At this moment, Wang Feng's mind was slowly becoming more and more clear. Under the cover of the green lotus, the spiritual power in his sea of consciousness became more and more dazzling. The green lotus also started to become fuller. Suddenly, Wang Feng didn't know how much time had passed. 6 rays of light shot out from the green lotus and transformed into 6 different forms, rotating in the sea of consciousness. Streams of green energy gushed out of the green lotus and washed over Wang Feng, who was wrapped in a cocoon. It seemed to be feeding back. At the same time, the 6 forms were instantly retracted. The chaotic green lotus martial spirit appeared above Wang Feng's head and emitted rays of chaotic light that enveloped Wang Feng. This green lotus was extraordinarily beautiful. Suddenly, the entire world seemed to have stopped. The flowing light of the sea god seemed to have frozen. The dark clouds, torrential rain, and lightning that had appeared with the support of the scepter in Possessi's hand suddenly disappeared. It was as if everything had returned to normal. It's been 3 months. Possessi stood on the sea god mountain and frowned slightly as he looked down at Wang Wu, who was still shrouded in green mist. An 800,000-year soul ring was many times stronger than a 100,000-year soul ring. It was not realistic for him to completely absorb it in a short period of time. Zhu Zhuqing spent 2 days absorbing the soul ring with the help of the meteoric tear, but it took her a few months to digest it. Tang San also spent close to 2 months absorbing the 100,000-year soul ring. 800,000 years, the first appearance of the phenomenon. What is this person's martial soul? It can actually cause the phenomenon of heaven and earth and temporarily break the power that I added. Possessi shook his head and felt that it was a little unbelievable. His 7th soul skill was his martial soul true body. The first appearance of his martial soul true body could cause the phenomenon of heaven and earth, and even break the restriction that she added in an instant. It was really unbelievable. At this moment, at the foot of the mountain, Tang San and the others, who were still tirelessly going through the second test, returned to the shore from the sea level. They all looked at the sky in astonishment. It seemed that even the golden light curtain that restricted the sky had disappeared, and the torrential rain in the sky had disappeared. It seems to be from the Sea God Mountain. Bai Qinxiang pointed at the top of the Sea God Mountain, and they could clearly see a green light. Is it caused by Wang Wu absorbing the God-bestowed soul ring? It's already been 3 months. 3 months. It had already been 3 months since the second round of examinations. What kind of martial soul and soul ring could cause such a change? Everyone looked at the same time. All of a sudden, the cocoon-like cyan light shield suddenly broke apart. It was very far away, but everyone could see a little bit clearly. They only saw a green light. It suddenly shot straight into the sky from that position. The intense green light pillar seemed to illuminate the world, but no one could see the situation inside the light pillar. However, this pillar of light exuded a chaotic and majestic aura that shook the world. Brother, the aura of this light pillar doesn't seem to be much inferior to the light pillar that we used to fight with the demon whale in that sea area. It's just that the color is completely different, and the aura it emits is also different. Xiao Wu's soul came out of Tang San's soul and possessed Xiao Wu's body as she spoke in a deep voice. Everyone was stunned when they heard this. They were able to survive back then because a peerless powerhouse seemed to have appeared and fought with the demon whale. The 9 of them barely escaped with their lives. All of this information was obtained from Purple Pearl Island when they came here. Xiao Wu was protected by Tang San at that time. Although she didn't see the specific situation, her soul existed in the soul ring, so she could feel a little. So powerful? Everyone was speechless. Zhu Zhuqing's eyes flickered and she frowned slightly. How old is this soul ring? Which soul skill is it? 7th? 8th or 9th? Everyone was a little curious. At this moment they didn't know, and it was impossible for them to know. Because the various restrictions of the second test had been removed, they couldn't proceed with the second test for the time being. This green light didn't last for long before it slowly disappeared. A figure that was the size of a grain of rice appeared on the Sea God Mountain far away. The light of the Sea God covered the Sea God Mountain again, causing everyone's vision to be slightly blurred. It was difficult to see what had happened to Wang Wu. Possessi, who had been paying attention to the sea god mountain, finally saw Wang Wu's figure at this moment. After 3 months, it seemed that he had finally finished absorbing it. From the moment the green light pillar rose, Possessi knew that Wang Wu's strength had probably reached an unimaginable level after absorbing this soul ring. Half a year ago, she, as the great consecrator of the sea god island, naturally sensed the light pillar in the demon whale sea region. It had to be said that the light pillar emitted an extremely destructive aura, which made her, who was still cultivating in the sea god palace, feel a trace of fear. Although the intensity wasn't high, the aura was extremely terrifying. The light pillar that Wang Wu emitted just now was not inferior. It was enough to prove that Wang Wu's strength had probably reached an extreme. Perhaps the other party's strength was not as good as hers, but even if she was on the sea god island, it was impossible to kill him. In her line of sight, Wang Wu's figure slowly appeared. P.S. A few more chapters. End of this chapter. Chapter 758. Poseidon saw a light that was filled with chaos. In the center of the light was an indescribable man, because no words could describe even a corner of his body. If one were to talk about his overall appearance, one could not use such low-grade words as handsome or handsome. In the past 100 years, Possessi had seen many handsome men, but none of them could be compared to the man in front of her. Possessi was a little surprised. How did this world give birth to such a peerless life? She felt an aura of life that she had never felt before. When she saw Wang Wu before, Poseidon had sensed his life force. It was pure, flawless, and gave people an aura that was compatible with nature. It was the aura of a high-level life form, which seemed to be wider than the sea. Possessi had this feeling when she looked up at the statue of the sea god. So she quickly noticed him. Although he seemed to be hiding something, Possessi felt that Wang Wu could not be an evil person. Because of this, Possessi had some understanding when the statue of the second sea god appeared on his body. But now it was even more exaggerated than before. By sight she could vaguely feel a hazy aura. To be clear, it did not feel like a person. It was more like a world of its own. This strange feeling made Poseidon a little scared. The aura seemed to have surpassed the pure life form and reached a higher level, which made people unconsciously attracted. Wang Wu stood calmly on the 800th floor, still wearing the black clothes before the light pillar disappeared. His face did not change at all, but his body had changed greatly. After the chaotic green lotus martial spirit finished absorbing the martial spirit, it transformed into its true form. Apart from returning a stream of energy, it also emitted a special light that cleansed Wang Feng's body several times. It caused some subtle changes to the dustless glass body. Wang Feng could not explain the changes, but his soul power and spiritual power had changed. His spiritual power changed from a big river to a wider river, as if it had entered a new level. In his consciousness, at a glance, there seemed to be no end to the silver mental energy. It seemed to have reached a bottleneck. Wang Feng wasn't too sure about the changes to his soul power. He could vaguely feel that the attribute of his soul power seemed to have changed furthermore, after his body had been cleansed by the light emitted by the chaotic green lotus, even his bones had a faint green glow. His blood contained an even more majestic energy, as if a drop of blood was a space that contained a myriad of worlds. Wang Feng knew that his physique had changed, but he wasn't sure of the specific effects. But close your eyes and feel the world. Everything that happened in the world seemed a little dirty. He felt isolated and independent, as if he had transcended the world. Even Wang Feng felt that the Possessi in front of him was a little dirty and strange. He should have evolved to a higher level of life form. Wang Feng could only give such an evaluation of this body. However, this feeling was not strong. Or rather, this body that had been cleansed by the primal chaos green lotus was not complete. However, at this level, Wang Feng seemed to have gained some understanding of heaven and earth. That understanding, however, was fleeting and difficult to grasp. It tickled Wang Fengxin. Perhaps I shouldn't call it the dustless glass body. Chaotic glass body? Green lotus glass body? Wang Fengxin pondered. However, it doesn't seem complete. Let's call it the dustless glass body. It had to be said that the chaotic green lotus was very strong. It wasn't inferior to Pangu's axe. However, the chaotic green lotus was too strong, and it needed to be developed slowly. Pangu's axe was complete. Wang Feng only realized how strong the chaotic green lotus was when his martial soul true body appeared. Everything else aside, the light pillar that rose from the sky after his martial soul true body appeared showed that it wasn't inferior to Pangu's axe. In other words, the chaotic green lotus was only a little complete now. Wang Feng thought about Pangu's axe true body. It should be able to transform, right? As for the effects of the chaotic green lotus true body, Wang Feng pondered. It seemed a little strong. The effects were very simple. In his martial soul true body, Wang Feng could use 2 forms at will without any restrictions. However, it consumed a lot of energy. Apart from that, all his soul skills were amplified by 100%. I should be able to exchange blows with a rank 99, exceptional Douluo. It's hard to say who will win. Wang Fengxin guessed. I probably can't beat a veteran rank 99, exceptional Douluo like Possessi on the Sea God's Island. However, it might be different once I leave the Sea God's Island. The chaotic green lotus true body could use 2 forms. This was very terrifying. No matter which form it would be a qualitative improvement for Wang Feng. Wang Feng would be invincible with any combination of the 2 forms. However, number 7 didn't awaken any other forms. She only had the chaotic green lotus true body. However, Wang Feng felt that the chaotic green lotus had an additional effect. It could use that mysterious light to cleanse his body and make his body stronger. His soul power and spiritual power would also become stronger. Wang Feng couldn't describe how strong it was. He felt that his soul power wasn't just soul power anymore. It was a higher level energy. The simplest change was that the energy that his body absorbed had to be compressed and purified multiple times before it could be converted into his current soul power. There were pros and cons to this, but the benefits were great. The most basic benefit was that the consumption of soul skills would be reduced, and his stamina would become stronger. Wang Feng wasn't sure if the strength of his soul skills would increase, but the abilities of his 6 forms would definitely increase. The 6 forms had their own abilities. For example, the Golden Lotus various recovery abilities, the Red Lotus karmic fire burning and absorbing flames, the Black Lotus defensive light barrier, the soul-slaying spear's strong offensive strength and incurability, and the cauldron of heaven and earth's tempering of everything in the world. Every flag of the 5 element flags had its own abilities. An increase in the quality of his soul power meant an increase in these abilities. Wang Feng also thought that if he used the Pangu axe, it would be even more powerful. Naturally, his fighting strength would be greatly improved. These were the benefits. The downside was that his soul power would increase more slowly. This was because no matter how fast he absorbed the energy of heaven and earth, Wang Feng had to compress and purify it multiple times before he could reach his current soul power level. Wang Feng could only form a very small strand. Apart from that, this light cleansed his body. There was another important effect. It made him more handsome. End of this chapter. Chapter 759. However, Wang Feng didn't know how to activate this light. This time, he absorbed the 800,000-year soul ring and formed the chaotic green lotus martial soul true body. The chaotic green lotus fed back to him, causing this light to descend. Perhaps it will descend again when he absorbs the soul ring later? This was probably just Wang Feng's guess. Wang Feng gave this special light a temporary name, chaotic light, and simple and crude. His thoughts were in a whirl as he sorted out the changes brought about by breaking through to rank 70. Wang Feng put on the mask again. This time, it was as if he was wearing another world. Possessy had this feeling. Congratulations! Possessy smiled. Your soul power is at least rank 77. Your martial soul should be the most unique martial soul I have ever seen in this world. Even the strongest martial soul in the past, the six-winged angel, may not be comparable to your martial soul. Although I don't know what your martial soul is, it seems to have many changes? You will know when the time comes, Wang Feng said calmly. After saying that, Wang Feng once again stepped onto the 1001st step. Possessy didn't force him to reveal his martial soul. She wouldn't do that. Possessy was a little curious as she watched the other party climb up the steps step by step. Would the current Wang Wu be able to take the final step? Wang Feng walked very quickly and easily. The pressure of the light of the sea god didn't seem to exist to him at all. This body that had undergone changes had faintly developed a resistance to the light of the sea god. These 800-odd steps of the light of the sea god didn't pressure him at all. Even if he reached the 100th step, there was no pressure. As he walked, Wang Feng thought that the god-bestowed soul ring should be the power bestowed by the sea god. In other words, it was given by the sea god. The stronger the soul ring, the more the sea god would consume. But thinking about it, this 800,000-year soul ring should be just a drizzle to a god, right? The god-bestowed soul ring is really a good thing. Wang Fengxin sighed. There was no resistance to absorbing it, unlike the soul rings of those soul beasts, which had to be obtained through battle. I can't even find a 70 or 80-year soul beast. As he thought of this, Wang Feng suddenly felt a little sad. What should he do with his 8th, 9th, and 10th soul rings? In the current Douluo world, it was definitely impossible. Could it be that he would raise one himself? This special care would last until the end of time. Moreover, he couldn't kill it even if he had developed feelings for it. If little Qing was 1,000,000 years old, Wang Feng wouldn't have been able to kill her. Time didn't allow it either. But now, my soul power rank is increasing even more slowly. I reckon that the gap between me and Tang San and the others is widening. With such thoughts in mind, Zhang Xian unknowingly reached the 999th level. In a trance, Wang Feng suddenly felt a wave of pressure like a tidal wave. It wasn't big. With a light kick, Wang Feng reached the 1000th floor. It felt like a pressure machine was squeezing his entire body, as if it was going to flatten him. But this time, Wang Feng smiled slightly. With a wave of his foot, he steadily ascended to the 1001st floor. Rumble! At the moment of landing, the entire sea god mountain trembled violently. The light of the sea god that enveloped the entire sea god mountain instantly became extremely bright. It was as if all the light had gathered on the 1001st floor. The violent tremor of the sea god mountain had obviously caused a change in this ring-shaped sea region. Countless demonic sea beasts rose from the sea surface crazily, and the scene was extremely shocking. Even the 3 sea spirit beasts that Wang Feng had just subdued came out of the water surface. Isn't that boss? How did he ascend the sea god mountain? The blackwater crocodile said in surprise. Even the sea god mountain is shaking? Is he going to tear down the sea god mountain? Tear down your head. The whale shark's tone was very heavy and knowledgeable. As far as I know, this sea god mountain is no less than the light of the sea god. Those humans who are valued by the sea god need to step through the light of the sea god and ascend the step. There are a total of 1001 steps, and at the last step, one may have to withstand the power of the sea god. It's already far beyond what humans can withstand. After so many years, Boss should have stepped onto the 1001st floor and withstood the pressure that he shouldn't have withstood at his age. This is why the sea god mountain is shaking non-stop. Oh, the blackwater crocodile was enlightened. Sister Shark, You are so knowledgeable and smart. Second brother Flood Dragon, what do you think? I think what Sister Shark said makes sense, the Blood Flood Dragon said. At this moment, the Whale Shark said again, no matter how strong a human soul master is, it is impossible for him to ascend to the 1001st floor. Even that peerless human expert from the Sea God Palace couldn't do it. Do the two of you know what it means for Master to be able to ascend without dying? It means that Master has the qualifications to become a sea god? To be able to withstand the power of the sea god with a human body, this is very powerful. The Blackwater Crocodile thought for a moment and said, could it be that he will inherit the sea god's deity position? But Master doesn't have much of the sea god's aura on him. Little Flood Dragon, what do you think? The Whale Shark asked. I think we are hugging onto a big thigh, the Blood Flood Dragon said. The Blackwater Crocodile. That's right. The Whale Shark nodded. This means we are hugging onto a big thigh. As long as we can hold onto it firmly, this sea will belong to the three of us in the future. Didn't that great white demon soul shark become the overlord and have such a huge tribe because it hugged onto the sea god's thigh? The Blackwater Crocodile nodded. Sister Shark had lived the longest, and what she said made sense. Back then, it was because the sea god valued the great white demon soul shark that they became the overlord and had a 100,000-year soul beast. In the tribe of sea spirit beasts, having a 100,000-year soul beast meant that the tribe had one more pillar that could support the sky. How strong can the great white demon soul shark be? The whale shark's tone was like a lemon. In the sea, they can't even defeat us whale sharks. Especially us, the 10,000 demon whale sharks, are rare and difficult to reproduce. Our strength increases slowly, but our bloodline is stronger than the great white demon soul shark. Do you know why the sea god chose the great white demon soul shark as his mount and not us who are stronger? Sister Crocodile, do you know? The Blackwater Crocodile thought for a while and said, I think it should be because the great white demon soul shark is more noble and more suitable for humans to be their mounts. Sister Shark, your whale shark clan is too big. When you stand on top, others can't see you at all. Those humans are very concerned about their reputation, so when they sit on top of you, they will pay more attention to you, and not the person on top of you. Of course, you are not suitable to be a mount. The Blackwater Crocodile's words made sense. When the whale shark carried Wang Feng up from the sea, Tang San and the others didn't see Wang Feng at first. Whale shark nodded in agreement and set off waves. Sister Crocodile, what you said makes sense, but this is not the main reason. Brother Flood Dragon, what do you think? I think Sister Shark and your clan are uglier than the great white demon soul shark, the Blood Flood Dragon said. The Blackwater Crocodile. End of chapter. Chapter 760. That's right. Whale Shark's tone was a little indignant. Back then, when the sea god was choosing a mount, it was purely based on who looked better. At that time, the demon soul great white shark was not considered a very strong existence among us shark-type soul beasts. But it was indeed good-looking. Its entire body was snow-white and its body was quite small. It was not that ferocious and looked more suitable to be the symbol of the sea god and the guardian beast. But our whale shark clan has always been known for being fierce, powerful, and ferocious. That's why the sea god did not choose us. After the sea god left, our whale shark clan could not accept it and caused a bloody storm in the sea. In the end, the sea god took action and suppressed us under the sea god mountain. Speaking of which, it was all blood and tears. This somewhat cruel history made the Blackwater Crocodile sigh with emotion. If that's the case, we have to hug Master's thigh tightly in the future. The Blackwater Crocodile looked at the light on the sea god mountain with some anticipation. Master said that he will find me a companion in the future. I heard that it's also a crocodile. Although our wind-winged Blackwater Crocodile is not strong in the sea, our species is very rare. I'm the only one left in our clan. The premise is that Master can survive. Whale Shark suddenly looked into the distance. There was also a beautiful great white shark that was several times smaller than her. It was emitting an extremely tyrannical aura. It was the true demon soul great white shark king, a 100,000-year soul beast. A few months ago, those few humans, the second test was to cross this sea. As the guardian beast of the island, the demon soul great white shark naturally came to be the invigilator and obstructed them. Later on, this great white demon soul shark even became the friends of those humans. The reason was very simple. The demon soul great white shark felt the sea god's aura on Tang San. Similarly, Whale Shark and the other two naturally felt it too. But they would not obstruct the other party casually because there was no need. They were too strong. Once they made a move, these 9 people had no chance of passing. In this sea, the 3 of them were the overlords. Even the demon soul great white shark king did not dare to act rashly. Otherwise, the 3 of them would not be suppressed under the sea at a depth of 5,500 meters. Whale Shark snorted coldly. The 3 sea spirit beasts stared at the peak of the sea god's mountain. That was related to the fate of the 3 aquatic soul beasts on the other side. Tang San and the others were also watching. Even if they couldn't see clearly, they knew that Wang Wu was climbing the last step. It was hard to imagine that the final floor would be so terrifying. If they were on the sea god mountain, they would have been instantly sent flying. Just by looking at the current momentum of the sea, one could tell. No wonder this person was able to subdue these 3 savage fellows. On the coast where Tang San was, a tall woman in white stood on the sea and looked at the top of the sea god mountain in amazement. She was none other than the great white devil shark king. However, they were able to transform into human form. This was because the great white demon soul shark race was rather special. After 100,000 years, they could temporarily transform into human form. Sister Xiaobai, you can't beat those 3 soul beasts either? Ning Rongrong giggled. It's really a spectacular day. It seems like all the aquatic soul beasts in the ocean have come out. They're all sticking their heads out. It's like a feast. As Ning Rongrong said, this ring-shaped sea was caused by the violent tremors of the sea god mountain. Those aquatic soul beasts that had been diving were all startled out of the sea. They all looked towards the sea god mountain as if they were on a pilgrimage. I can't beat them. The great white demon soul shark that was called Xiaobai said casually. To be honest, among the aquatic soul beasts, the 10,000 demon whale shark is the largest and the most powerful. It's the true overlord of the shark species. There's nothing to say. The other 2 are also very strong. They're not much inferior to me. Especially that blood dragon, it has a very ancient bloodline of the true dragon. It can't control itself. In the sea, I can't beat them even if I use all my strength. Hearing this, the 9 people looked at each other. In the past 3 months, the 9 of them had gotten to know this great white demon soul shark from the very beginning. Then, during these 3 months, the 9 of them had used the soul beasts in the sea to train their fighting abilities while thinking of ways to cross the 2,500-meter distance. No discord, no concord. In addition, Tang Shan had the aura of the sea god, so they became friends with this great white demon soul shark. Naturally, they knew the strength of this great white demon soul shark very well. No matter what, the 9 of them could fight the great white demon soul shark that didn't use all its strength. But in the sea it was very difficult. In fact, the 9 of them were already very strong. But in the sea, their strength was reduced by too much. Especially in the second test, there were too many restrictions. Just Tang San's soul skills were limited, Ning Rongrong's auxiliary abilities were greatly reduced, and the stronger Zhu Zhuqing's soul skills were also greatly reduced. There was also the pressure of the sea, so they could barely fight the great white demon soul shark to a draw. But in these 3 months they had improved a lot. because they had all broken through rank 70 and obtained their martial soul true bodies, they had all become stronger. Naturally, they had to train new soul skills. But such a powerful great white demon soul shark said that they couldn't beat it? So, I'm very curious. That person, how did he subdue it? Little White looked at the intense light at the top of the sea god's mountain, and her eyes flashed with surprise. But I'm more curious now. Can he withstand the light of the sea god on the 1001st floor? Is there anything special about the 1001st floor? Oscar asked curiously. It should be getting stronger all the time, right? Wang Wu had reached the 1000th floor before, but he didn't seem to have crossed the last floor. Everyone was also very curious about this, that Wang Wu had absorbed a god-bestowed soul ring for 3 months, not to mention what rank it was, but it was definitely to reach the last floor. Now that it was so powerful, it didn't seem very stable. There should be a qualitative change, Tang San muttered. A 10% increase on one floor, at the 1000th floor, it's an unimaginable number. I feel that even a rank 99 titled Douluo might not be able to climb up. That's right. Little White nodded and said, Master is right. It's a qualitative change. If one were to say that the first 1000 levels were all within the limits of what a human could withstand, then the first 1000 levels would be the limit of what a human could withstand. Then the 1001st floor. At this point, Little White paused and said slowly, It's God's domain. It's also God's power. In other words, you have to withstand God's power. Although it might not be strong, it's still God's power. Humans and gods are different. It's not that easy to withstand God's power. Hearing this, everyone was shocked. They looked at the sky in astonishment. Zhu Zhuqing stared at him. Her heart was thumping and throbbing. At this moment, at the top of the sea god's mountain, the boundless light of the sea god suddenly exploded. Although it's a little late, it doesn't stop me from asking for votes. Good night everyone. End of chapter. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.